Chapter 691. Thousands of stars appeared at the bottom of the lake. It was like a starry sky. At first, there were soft ripples spreading, as if it was caused by a gentle breeze. But if someone stood on the shore, they would find that the entire lake now had a wonderful energy field. It was like being isolated from the world, with the rocky shore as the boundary, and the lake formed a space of its own. On the outside, not even air could enter. On the inside, an endless amount of energy condensed from the lake water. At the bottom of the lake, beside Yu Yang and Yu Yu, thousands of stars shone faintly. When more and more soft water energy was injected into Yu Yang's body, the other Yang ability immediately doubled. To fight against it, under the guidance of Yu Yu, the two gradually merged. There was no sign of explosion, only a perfect fusion, turning into another kind of pure energy with the power of yin and yang, circulating in the bodies of the two. When enough soft water energy was stored, Yu Yang decided to break through in one go. The powerful Yang ability continued to leak out from his left side. If it wasn't for Yu Yu's gentle water power, if it wasn't for the fact that they were at the bottom of the lake, the entire world would have exploded violently. Yu Yu summoned the stormy waves beast, absorbed the Yang ability of the lake water, and controlled the lake water to neutralize this violent Yang ability. If Shui Wuxiao was here, she would freeze it with extreme cold ice, but Yu Yu's method was different. She did not stop the explosion of the Yang ability, but guided it to the lake water. A huge whirlpool appeared in the entire lake at this time. In the center of the whirlpool, above Yu Yang's head, a fire pillar of heaven's fury fire, ultimate fire, and twilight flame shot straight into the sky. However, under Yu Yang's feet, Yu Yu guided all the water energy of the lake into his body with the stormy waves. At the same time, she held his big hand tightly, circulating the softest water energy in her body over and over again in his body, so that even at the critical moment of breakthrough, he could still stay awake and rational. Yu Yang raised his hand, and purple lightning flashed in the sky, coiling around the pillar of fire. It tore through the heavens and earth as it slashed down. It was as if it could destroy everything. However, when the purple lightning struck Yu Yang's left hand, it was as obedient as a cat, obediently turning into a sizzling ball of electricity. It continued to condense, and at the same time, it was quickly converted into electricity and injected into Yu Yang's left hand. With the combination of blazing flames, gentle water, and thunder and lightning, Yu Yang suddenly felt that he had gained a new understanding of the supremacy realm. It was as if he could see further with his eyes, and could see more subtly with his eyes. Between heaven and earth, all kinds of things appeared before his eyes. He felt that he had become huge, incomparably huge. It was as if he could touch the stars in the sky with just a stretch of his hand. It was as if he could topple a distant mountain with just a bit of force. This was different from before. This time, he was in a completely clear-headed state as he grasped the power of the laws. He could feel it very vividly. The true power of the laws was in his hands. Even if it was just a little, this was just the beginning of control. Yu Yang slowly reached out his hand towards the frightened, raging waves. In the supremacy realm, under the power of the laws, he felt how small this war beast was. With a raise of his hand, he could completely destroy it. Of course, with a raise of his hand, he could also raise it. Could this be the power of a god? This strange thought suddenly flashed through Yu Yang's mind. From the knowledge passed down by the pitiful guy's mother, Yu Yang understood the usage of a new heaven realm rune circle that he had never tried before. He used his left hand, which controlled the power of the laws, to draw the rune circle on Yu Yu's forehead. Then he grabbed raging waves, squeezed it into a ball of water, and gently dripped it on her forehead. Yu Yu didn't understand his actions, but she trusted him absolutely. Even when she saw him kill raging waves, she didn't stop him. Rune contract. Yu Yang finished dripping the water on Yu Yu's forehead and drew an ancient rune on her forehead. A strange flash of light shone on Yu Yu's forehead, so bright that people couldn't look at it directly. Even the angel of dawn spread her sword wings happily. Her soul was singing loudly. After doing all these, Yu Yang took out the Gemini mask that was slightly broken by the Scarlet Emperor and had yet to fully recover. The Gemini mask was originally only at the gold rank, but it had 7 layers of seals. Yu Yang used his innate chi to unlock the easiest first layer of seal, and then used Nirvana Flame to unlock the second layer. Now, he wanted to use the power of the new laws to unlock the third layer. It wasn't that he couldn't unlock the seal of the Gemini mask before, but he didn't know how to do it. Before he could control the power of the law, it was like knowing that there were treasures in a safe, but there was no key to open it. Yu Yang's left hand lightly drew a line on Yu Yu's Angel of Dawn sword wings, dripped blood, and drew countless rune circles on the Gemini mask. Before all the seals were unlocked, the Gemini mask must be repaired and restored to its original appearance. A dazzling golden light shot out from the Gemini mask, and the cracks that were broken by the Scarlet Emperor were repaired by the rune circles and Yu Yang's blood. It quickly faded and disappeared. Moreover, it was restored to its original appearance. The third layer of seal, under Yu Yang's new control of the law, was easily unlocked, as simple as opening a safe with a key. At the same time that the seal was unlocked, because of Yu Yang's blood and the rune circles, the Gemini mask was gradually restored to its original form. Its quality was rapidly increasing from the gold rank to the platinum rank, and it was still increasing. What kind of treasure was it originally? Yu Yang used his divine vision to look at it, and found that it was at least not inferior to a holy relic, but even with his current divine vision, he could not see the final truth. This was related to the Gemini mask seal not being unlocked, and also because Yu Yang's divine vision had not reached the highest level. The truth that he could see was still relatively limited. Of course, with his current Heaven Eyes divine vision, he still could not see the final truth. The Gemini mask gave Yu Yang a very big surprise. Continue. Yu Yang prepared to use the power of the law to continue unlocking the fourth layer of seal. However, because of his excited state of mind, his concentration was distracted, and the power of the law that he grasped quickly weakened. Because of his successful breakthrough, Yu Yang, who had not entered the state for a long time, shook his body, and a light pillar rose from the top of his head, rushing to the top of the sky. The summoning grimoire appeared automatically. The divine vision that he used the most did not increase, but the counterfeit inherent skill that he rarely used actually increased. Yu Yang entered the peak state of leveling up. For a moment, he was unable to think, and wholeheartedly immersed himself in that wonderful feeling. The Gemini mask fell from his hands. Yu Yu just wanted to reach out to catch it, but it seemed to have a spirit, and lightly dodged it, slowly circling around Yu Yang's side. Yu Yu noticed that even under the influence of the summoning grimoire's world, the Gemini mask could still absorb the energy emitted from Yu Yang's body very slightly. Could it evolve by itself? It had a spirit. A treasure with a spirit was at least a holy relic, but this Gemini mask, even now, was only platinum ranked. Strange. Yu Yu was secretly surprised, but this was a good thing. Moreover, this was her brother's favorite treasure. The more spiritual it was, the better. It would be best if it was a divine equipment. I succeeded? When Yu Yang woke up, he found himself in the center of the whirlpool of the lake. Yu Yu was by his side, and the Gemini mask was flying around the side of the summoning grimoire. He was in disbelief. Was it really that easy to break through? The innate level 10 that he had been unable to make any progress had actually been achieved. Not only did his own breakthrough increase his strength, he could also condense the Chixi alien. Now, if he were to hit that old demon way again, he would probably cry from fright, right? Yu Yang picked up Yu Yu, let out a childlike cheer, and rushed straight into the sky. From the extremely high sky, he descended at high speed, scaring Yu Yu until he cried out in alarm. Only then did he slow down and float back down to the surface of the lake. However, he still couldn't suppress his excitement. He somersaulted a dozen times on the surface of the lake and let out a hearty laugh. When Yu Yu saw his childish appearance, she couldn't help but cover her mouth and secretly laugh. No matter how strong he was still her little brother. He also needed to take care of himself. The Gemini mask has actually become like this. Oh my God, I can't believe I did it. Yu Yang knew that he had done it. But the state of the sovereign realm, when he controlled the power of the ancient code, was completely different from usual. He even had a bit of a desire to maintain that state more. In that state, everything in the world was under his control. That feeling was simply too great. Not only that, you even changed the appearance of my stormy waves beast. Yu summoned her grimoire and discovered that her war beast had changed completely. The gold-ranked storm wave had already disappeared. What replaced it was a platinum-ranked berserk tide. Its original skills hadn't changed, but there were 3 more skills like Wave Ripper, Still Water, and Spirit Fusion. Yu lightly pointed with her hand, and the berserk tide that she summoned was no longer a water dragon like before. Now, it was similar to the original form of the Spirit of Radiance, the Radiant Angel, but it was purely composed of liquid. The consciousness of the Angel of Dawn completely dominated it, controlling the power of water together with it. This was the effect of the rune circle that Yu Yang had drawn on Yu's forehead. Not only that, but it, which was originally just an ordinary contract, had also formed a special spiritual contract. Although the spiritual contract wasn't as good as the soul contract, it was much better than the ordinary contract. With the spiritual contract, Yu would be able to control the berserk tide even more easily. Now, she and the berserk tide were truly one. Of course, because the Angel of Dawn and Yu had a soul contract, their minds were one. Therefore, when the Angel of Dawn didn't command Yu, she could also represent her master and control the berserk tide to do anything. I didn't expect to be able to do so many things after advancing to innate level 10. If I were to advance another level to innate elder level 1, what would happen? Yu Yang immediately began to fantasize. Perhaps he would be able to successfully open the divine grimoire and figure out its secrets. At the very least, he would be able to unseal more of the Gemini mask seals and restore it to its true form. Perhaps this Gemini mask was also a sacred artifact, or even a divine artifact. One night has passed. Let's go back first, otherwise Xiaonu will be worried again. Yu saw that the sky in the east was slightly white, as if dawn was about to arrive. She hurriedly reminded Yu Yang. She wasn't afraid that Xiaonu would worry, but she was embarrassed. Moreover, she didn't want others to know that she was the one who assisted Yu Yang in his advancement. When they returned, Yu refused to let Yu Yang hug her no matter what, even if it would be 10 times faster. She spread out the Angel of Dawn sword wings and followed him, flying in the sky. Looking at his heroic profile, Yu suddenly felt a sense of happiness in her heart. If she followed him like this for the rest of her life. No, he was just a little brother. However, even now, it was a happy thing to be able to follow him and fly with him in the sky. Don't think about the future. Let's be happy now first. Yu revealed a smile. It was incomparably quiet. That smiling face was like the dawn in the eastern sky, soft radiance. Chapter 692. When the roundhead Bao Gu woke up, he found that he was not crushed to death by the boulder, but was instead in a special construction site. Even in the heaven realm, it was rare to see such a huge project. He didn't know what these people were doing, but he was sure that these millions of people were definitely doing something unprecedented. He was very good at reading people's expressions. Just by looking at the enthusiasm of the laborers around him and the pride on their faces, he could tell how important this huge project was to them. Even if it was only 1 of a million participants, it was still a supreme honor. There were different races here, but the work they did was almost the same. Warriors of different strengths did not have a clear hierarchy. The roundhead Bao Gu could see a heaven realm draconian of Earth stage level 6 lifting a huge rock and carrying it. According to her strength, she should stand at a high place and supervise the work of the weak. Compared to her, many workers were as weak as ants. It was fine if it was the heaven realm draconian, because in the heaven realm, their status was not high. Especially in front of men, they were like slaves. However, when the roundhead Bao Gu saw 2 abyss manatees of heaven stage level 2 leading a group of amphibious fish demons and hybrid fishmen, they were also digging a pond to draw water. His mouth was so wide open that he could stuff a bull toad in. What a joke! The heaven stage abyss manatee was also a laborer, who had the authority to order them around. "You're not dead? When I first saw you, you looked like a salted fish. I didn't expect you to be able to come back to life." The roundhead Bao discovered that a mutated fishman had appeared beside him at some point in time. He looked very strange. Of course, from a mainstream aesthetic point of view of the round-head Bao in the Blackwind City area, this strange-looking hybrid fishman could still be considered a character type, especially if its mouth didn't talk so much nonsense. Just like the other super cool swordfish man with a straight face, it would probably add a lot of points. "May I ask who you are?" The roundhead Bao discovered that the strength of these two hybrid fishmen was not low, especially that super cool swordfish man, who had reached Earth Stage Level 8. Gale. The cool swordfish man only glanced at Bao before immediately turning around and leaving. The chattering hybrid fishman also introduced himself. "I am Mud Skipper Sui Zue. I will be responsible for explaining everything to you. If you have anything you don't understand, you can ask me. Sui Zue knows everything." "All right, your ability to fake your death is really not bad." I didn't believe them when they said it, so I tried to press you with a boulder for 3 days. Your intestines almost came out. I didn't expect that once you moved the boulder, you would be able to completely recover in less than a day. "What race are you? Sea cucumber or hydra?" "Neither." Ling Ling? He had never heard of the camel-carrying tribe, but he had heard of the possum tribe. This is obviously not the Southern Heaven Realm. Don't you feel that the surrounding environment is completely different from the gravity on the ground? This is the lowest level of Tong Tian Tower, the soaring dragon continent. The faraway castle is the Yu clan castle. If you don't understand, forget it. This matter is very complicated. I will explain it to you slowly in the future. I don't understand. Forget it. This matter is very complicated. I'll explain it to you slowly in the future. He ran to greet the other Heaven Realm dragon woman. He called her Queen Shi Gu. As for the strange woman who even Queen Shi Gu respectfully accompanied, she called her Highness Xia Yi. "Your Highness?" Hearing this title, the roundhead Bao Gu jumped in fright. Seeing Xia Yi, accompanied by Queen Shi Gu, come over, he quickly bowed deeply and greeted her sincerely. If it was in the Heaven Realm, if a low-level being did not greet a superior being, it would be equivalent to looking down on the dignity of a superior being. There was almost no need for a trial, and they could directly be beheaded in public. He said that you're not bad, and that you are very good at intelligence. In the future, I will leave the intelligence of the Heaven Realm to you. Of course, we are still in the midst of war, and the overall situation is not settled. You should stay here for a while. Xia Yi's words made the roundhead Bao Gu even more confused. He did not know anyone here. Could it be that these people had made a mistake? Where's my friend Jun Wu Yi? The roundhead Bao Gu wanted to know if the two of them would be saved together, or if he, who had the ability to fake his death, would survive alone. He's fine, but he's very busy. He'll come here when he's free in the future. Her Highness Xia Yi did not say much and quickly left. The roundhead Bao Gu did not dare to raise his head. Otherwise, he would be able to tell that she was trying her best to hold back her laughter. When Xia Yi and the others had left, Sui Zue forcefully patted the roundhead Bao Gu's shoulder. "This is actually a very good place. I originally lived on the 6th floor of Tong Tian Tower, but I realized that there was no better place to live than here, so I decided to move here in the future." The roundhead Bao Gu was sweating profusely at his words. "It has nothing to do with me where you like to live." However, the roundhead Bao Gu did not say this out loud. Moreover, Jun Wu Yi was not dead, so he relaxed. Jun Wu Yi was still alive. He was not free, so it was possible for the people here to requisition his work. There was no better result than this. Although he could not figure out how he was fine after the boulder pressed down, he originally thought that even if he had the ability to fake his death, he would not be able to escape from such a huge boulder. He did not expect that both of them were fine. This was too lucky. "Do you have to work?" The roundhead Bao Gu felt that since he was brought here, he would definitely have to work. He had to redeem himself with his labor. "Of course, how boring would it be if I don't work? I've tried to sit here and watch them work, but that kind of life is really unbearable. How happy it is to work, to lift a huge rock in front of those commoners, to let them cheer for you, and to look at you with incomparable admiration. At that moment, you will realize how great you are. Ah, the vice principal is here. No, I have to go talk to him. With a swoosh, he flew into the distance and greeted an old man. Then, he began to chat happily. Not to mention this broken mouth. Even the two abyss manatees of heaven stage bowed when they saw this old man of earth stage. The roundhead Bao was stunned and could not react at all. Ah, here, what is this place? The roundhead Bao was even more confused now. Small garden, rainbow castle. For the past 2 days, Yu Yang had been trying to condense the Scarlet Knight sword. Qi Zhao's swordsmanship was different from He Guai Tsang and Bai Shuanghua. Its power was on a whole new level, with an extremely strong yang energy. Yu Yang's current heavens, Fury Fire Lotus, and Ultimate Fire were completely incomparable to it. If the heavens Fury Fire Lotus that could burn the heavens and the earth was compared to a torch, then the Scarlet Knight sword was equivalent to a volcano. Of course, this was still the power that Yu Yang controlled. If the heavenly sword goddess were to use it, then the power of the Knight sword would be like a sun. The Knight Immortal sword did not have any flames. It was not a flame, but a new type of energy that was condensed after the yang energy reached its limit. It was different from the black Guai Tsang sword and the white Shuanghua sword. Even if Yu Yang used all his strength, he could only condense a Knight Immortal sword the size of a chopstick. Hoo-hoo! When Yu Yang's innate chi was almost exhausted, he stopped condensing the Knight Immortal sword. The sweat on his body soaked through his heavy clothes. Take a rest. Yu summoned a healing water ball to help Yu Yang recover from his fatigue. Then, she used a handkerchief to gently wipe the sweat off his forehead. Her movements were as gentle as the wind. What kind of battle skill is this? It looks very strange. Captain Raging Flame threw an apple into her mouth and chewed on it. She had a forthright manner that ordinary women did not have, causing Drunken Cat to be dumbfounded. Nyunyo, who was obediently peeling the apple for her mother with a knife, blinked her big eyes. Could an apple be eaten like this? Please change the word strange to magical. Yu Yang reached out to Nyunyo. The little panda girl looked at her mother and saw that she did not object. She first passed the peeled apple to him, then quickly took another apple and peeled one for her mother. How old are you? Still snatching food from a child's hands. Drunken Cat did not mind, but she insisted on going against Yu Yang. Nyonyo, go and wash another plate of grapes for us later. Oh right, after you're done washing, make sure to chill it. Yu Yang often ordered Nyonyo to do things, but the little panda girl was very willing to do it. Yu felt very warm when she saw this laughing scene. During the break, the Night Empress came. As usual, she came stealthily, but Yu Yang, whose senses had greatly increased due to the upgrade, sensed her presence when she was still very far away. When the Night Empress saw Yu Yang standing up and waiting for her, she was slightly surprised. So you have broken through? Great, I wanted to bring you along to take a look, but now I'll leave it to you. Yu Yang was slightly surprised. What was it that needed the Night Empress to make a move? Hearing the Night Empress words, even Yu and Drunken Cat became nervous. The Night Empress' voice was still elegant and calm. She explained to Yu Yang, the mercenary group that the ancient Devil King got from the Heaven Realm might have come to Tong Tian Tower before and had some information. They actually hid it from the ancient Devil King and sneaked to the periphery of the God's ruins. The ancient Devil King has probably gone to the Western Heaven Realm. These guys are very unscrupulous. For a few days, they have been circling around the periphery of the God's ruins. Although they didn't get anything, this kind of arrogant behavior is annoying, so I decided to teach them a lesson. What? Yu Yang was also angry. To him, the God's ruins was equivalent to his own family's treasure house. These guys dared to have any ideas about the God's ruins? 2 days ago, Ji Zun and I were in closed-door training. I didn't expect these guys to be so arrogant. The Night Empress's angelic voice became serious. Originally, I wanted to go with you. Now that you have broken through, I'll let you try your blade. I'll leave those guys to you. The ones on the periphery might escape, but the two that entered, don't let them come out. The gods' ruins is not something that any random dog or cat can covet. We have to teach them a lesson. Understood. Yu Yang's hands were itching to try out the power of Qi Xiaolian. These guys could be considered to have hit a good day. I'll go too. When the female giant raging flame heard that there was going to be a fight, she quickly jumped up and volunteered to fight. Chapter 693. Outside of the gods' ruins. Ever since they stepped into the Death Valley, Yi Xiao, Zi Guang, Yu Su, and Bei felt that something was wrong. Especially their two extraordinary companions, Guo and Gu Deng. After opening the secret door and venturing into the legendary guiding temple that was enlightened by the God of wisdom, they never returned. For days had passed, and there was no news of them, which made them feel even more uneasy. With Guo and Gu Deng's strength, unless it was some special terrain, no one in the entire Tongtian Tower could kill them except for the Jizun. The Jizun was in seclusion at the gate of life and death of the Heaven Realm. It had been nearly a month, so it was impossible for her to know that someone had sneaked into the gods' ruins. Furthermore, this operation was extremely secretive, and no one knew about it. Guo and Gu Deng, if they worked together, even if they encountered an ancient magical beast, they would still be able to escape unscathed. The two of them also knew that it was impossible for them to obtain the benefits of the gods' ruins. Without any external interference, without dying in battle, and without any selfishness, the two of them had strangely disappeared. What did this mean? Could it be that they had been imprisoned by some sort of mechanism, or that they had violated some sort of law and been erased by the power of the law inside? If not, why were they 3 days late when they had agreed to come out in 1 day? Those who stayed outside, should they continue to enter or leave? The longer one stayed in the outskirts of the gods' ruins, the more dangerous it would be. Other than the Jizun who had finished his seclusion, there were also all sorts of destructive forces left behind after the gods' war. They were affecting each other and changing unpredictably. It was very unwise to stay in this area for too long. There are no magical beasts today. Even the sporadic cries of insects have all disappeared. Zi Guang sighed slightly. It seems that danger is approaching. Captain, you make a decision. Are we going in or are we leaving? We've waited for 3 days, and we've already done our best. Yu Su also noticed that the surroundings were deathly silent, and his heart was in a mess. I agree to leave. Bei, who had been silent, spoke up. If it's not a powerful enemy, then there's a destructive force sweeping through this place. If it wasn't for my senses being wrong, the danger would have arrived in less than 10 minutes. The purple light pointed to the horizon. In the sky, there were several rays of light shining through the clouds like a whale sucking in water. As the weather changed, hundreds of tornadoes appeared everywhere for no reason. Thunder boomed in the distant sky, and from time to time, a spatial crack would appear, swallowing anything it came into contact with. Even in the face of difficulties, I'm not willing to abandon my teammates. Leave their lives to the heavens. Nightingale took out a tortoise shell, fingers lightly tapping on it. 3 consecutive knocks. Then, he slowly took out an ancient coin and let it spin on the back of the turtle shell. When the ancient coin stopped moving, he lifted it up and carefully examined the patterns on the tortoise shell and the coin. A thin diagonal cross was the sign of this divination. After Yi Xiao and Zi Guang saw this, their complexions changed at the same time. They looked at each other and they shook their heads. This divination was an ominous sign. Retreat quickly. Nightingale no longer insisted on his own opinion. Although his divination talent could only be used once every 3 months, it was very accurate. Although he couldn't determine what the consequences of this ominous omen would be, it would be extremely foolish to stay here and wait for Guo and Gu Deng. It was very likely that Jizun had already received the news and was on his way after ending his seclusion. When they left, Yu Yang walked out of the tornado and looked at the sky where the 4 of them had left with a bit of pity. If he had enough strength, he believed that these 4 fellows wouldn't be able to escape. It wasn't difficult to kill one of them, but it was still a bit difficult to keep all of them here. After all, these fellows were all frightened birds. Once they appeared, they would immediately split up and escape. Yeong thought about it again and decided to endure it for now. He pretended not to know that they had come and looked for the next opportunity to kill them. Now, he would enter the guiding temple and kill Wagua and Gu Deng who were trapped inside. With the map pointed out by the Night Empress, the heavily guarded guiding temple was no longer dangerous. Wagua and Gu Deng, the two mercenaries from the Heaven Realm who were trapped inside, could be used to test the power of the Red Knight practice sword. Inside the guiding temple. To be precise, Wagua and Gu Deng had yet to reach the true main hall of the guiding temple. They had wasted too much time in the endless secret passages, traps, and ancient evil spirits that appeared from time to time. One secret passage after another that could never be reached, one evil spirit tomb after another that could never be killed, one rune crystal pillar after another that could never be understood. All sorts of strange and inexplicable things were common after entering the secret door. Wagua and Gu Deng were already numb. Sometimes, when they walked through a secret passage, they would discover that in front of them was a vast ocean. Sometimes, when they passed through a tomb, they would discover that behind the tomb was a blazing volcano. Sometimes, as they walked, the secret passage would suddenly disappear. The road would seal itself, and other traps would be activated, bringing the intruder into an endless abyss. Below the abyss, waiting for the intruder, was an endless number of ancient evil spirits. These ancient evil spirits could never be truly killed. Even if they were smashed into pieces, they would be able to recover immediately. A kind of evil soul that no longer had any rational consciousness and only carried the curse forever. Other than crying and repenting, they instinctively tore the intruder into pieces and turned him into their companions. Damn it! No wonder the warriors of Tong Tian Tower didn't try to enter this place. This is not a place that can be conquered by force. Wagua, who was as big as a giant, had suffered quite a bit in the secret passage. He was an attack-type warrior. Whether it was war beasts or battle skills, they were all focused on strength and attack. However, this kind of special environment was not his forte. If it weren't for his powerful strength at the peak of the 4th level of Heaven Stage, he would have long since become the food of those countless and unkillable ancient evil spirits. Calm down. Haven't you heard of the saying that the greater the difficulty, the greater the harvest? If it was easy, would the guiding temple still have treasures left for us? Gu Deng was the opposite of Wagua. He was better at fighting in a special environment. If it wasn't for Wagua dragging him down, he believed that it would be even easier for him. Maybe there is no guiding temple at all. That's a lie. Even if we walk around here for a lifetime, we won't be able to find it. Wagua was complaining. However, it was impossible for him to give up now. It wasn't easy for him to make it here. If he didn't gain anything, he definitely wouldn't leave. The time had already exceeded the agreement with Captain Yishao. This wasn't a problem at all. Besides, if they were to go back now, they would already be late. Moreover, they might not even be able to return smoothly. After passing by a rune crystal pillar that no one could understand, Wagua and Gu Deng saw a huge tomb at the end of the secret passage. Entering the tomb, there were endless corpse insects and skeletons, as well as stone ghost bats and ancient evil spirits. Even though they knew that it was filled with these things, they were still unwilling to give up the search. Perhaps there was a secret passage that led directly to the guiding temple. So many tombs have been searched one by one. If they missed the secret passage that led to the guiding temple, they would all go crazy. Wagua and Gu Deng resisted the urge to vomit. They summoned their war beasts and slaughtered all the monsters here. Even those ancient evil spirits that could never be killed were driven away by the crazed, dancing grass song of the plant-type war beasts. After a careful search, the result was depressing. There was nothing in the tomb. Other than the sarcophagus, there was still another sarcophagus. The other teleportation exit was an endless desert filled with yellow sand. It was another unit world. Roar, I swear, as long as I find a treasure, even if it's a small magic crystal, I'll leave in satisfaction. I won't look for any guiding temple anymore. Wagua roared angrily. He couldn't take it anymore. He wanted to leave, but he couldn't bear to return empty-handed from the treasure mountain. Let's continue. Gu Dang's face was gloomy. He was also holding back his anger. He had to find the guiding temple. When they returned to the secret passage, a small piece of extremely pure magic crystal appeared in front of them, emitting a faint blue light. Wagua happily picked it up and cheered. There really is a treasure. Oh my God. Although this magic crystal doesn't have much energy, it's very pure. It's simply the purest magic crystal I've ever seen in my life. The guiding temple really does exist. Let's go, let's go. We must loot the entire guiding temple and take all the treasures. All the treasures in the god's ruins, the god's blood, and the martial spirit all belong to us. However, Gu Dang didn't look excited at all. Instead, he revealed a cold expression. Wagua, there was no magic crystal there just now. Wagua was confused. Wasn't this clearly a magic crystal? Gu Dang snorted coldly. Someone is following us. Just now, he heard everything we said. That's why he threw down the magic crystal and told us to retreat. Dream on. Whether there's anyone or not, I have to go to the guiding temple. No one can let me leave. Wagua looked around, searching for hidden enemies. Who was following him? Was it an enemy or a friend? At the corner of the secret passage, a female giant with a head full of fiery hair walked over with large strides. Her strength caused the corners of Wagua and Gu Dang's eyes to twitch. Heaven Stage Level 5. Wagua and Gu Dang moved almost at the same time, and that was to quickly retreat. Like an arrow, he retreated back into the huge tomb. In the relatively narrow secret passage, it would be foolish to start a battle with this female giant of Heaven Stage Level 5. Even Wagua, who was known for his brute force, felt a chill in his heart when he saw the explosive power of the other party. This female giant was very similar to him. She was probably a Heaven Stage expert who used brute force to attack. Fighting head-on was what the other party was best at. Why didn't you say so earlier? Your requirements are so low. You could just pick up a magic crystal and leave. That way, I can throw a few more magic crystals before this so that you can return satisfied. You don't have to fight so hard. When Wagua and Gu Dang returned to the huge tomb, they discovered that there was a man wearing a platinum mask inside. They didn't know when he had been waiting inside. Ding! Another pure magic crystal was tossed out from his hand. It bounced to Wagua's feet. The masked man's eyes revealed a mocking light, as if he was saying, "Hurry up and pick it up, beggar!" Wagua's face darkened, filled with anger. Gu Dang sucked in a breath of cold air. So the magic crystal was thrown by this masked man. What did that mean? After he heard Wagua's trembling, he first threw a magic crystal outside, playing with Wagua, and then returned without anyone noticing, waiting for him and Wagua in the tomb. There's only one secret passage, and he could come and go freely in front of him without him noticing at all. Not to mention anything else, just this ability to conceal himself could not be underestimated. Chapter 694. Trying to be mysterious? Do you think you can scare people with a broken mask? Wagua discovered that the masked man's strength did not seem to be strong. It was just that his movement technique was a little strange. He did not have any level or realm pressure on him. From this, he could tell that his level was lower than his. If it wasn't Heaven Stage Level 2, then it was Heaven Stage Level 3. Wagua was not afraid of those whose levels were lower than his, even if they had special war beasts of Heaven Stage. In the first treasure hunting team, led by Yi Xiao, the one with the most powerful war beasts was not Yong Hui, who was known to be unkillable. Yisu was also not an expert in aerial combat. In fact, it wasn't the resourceful Zi Guang and the leader, Nightingale, but himself. Compared to powerful war beasts, although Gu Dang had many special war beasts, their strength was actually inferior to his. If there weren't so many powerful war beasts, why would Yi Xiao and Zi Guang agree to let him join? As long as there was enough space, not to mention a masked man below Heaven Stage Level 3. Even the female giant of Heaven Stage Level 5 was no match for him. Especially before coming to Tong Tian Tower, in order to ensure success, His master had specially gifted him a Maha Elephant of Heaven Stage Level 5 to protect him. With this Maha Elephant of Heaven Stage Level 4, not to mention Tong Tian Tower, even in the Western Heaven Realm, it would be able to move unhindered for a while. Although there were many war beasts in the Heaven Realm, how many of them were above Heaven Rank Level 5? Be careful. However, Gu Deng didn't dare to underestimate Yu Yang. He hurriedly reminded Wagua, "A long night is fraught with dreams. Let's end this quickly." What he meant was for Wagua to immediately summon the Maha Elephant of Heaven Stage Level 5 and go all out. The masked man and the female giant were not the rankers in the intelligence report. However, his strength was extraordinary. If Ji Zun and Night Empress caught up, the consequences would be unimaginable. Gu Deng didn't know if Ji Zun and Night Empress already knew the secret of this operation, but he knew that if Ji Zun and Night Empress came, Yi Xiao, Ziguang, and their companions would definitely not clash head-on with Ji Zun. He immediately summoned his strongest beast. Even if he couldn't kill this masked man, he had to get rid of him quickly. Fighting in the underground chamber of the Temple of Guidance, he was completely unfamiliar with the terrain. Compared to his opponent, he was at a disadvantage. In other words, they had lost the advantage. This was extremely dangerous. He had to get out of this predicament as soon as possible. It doesn't matter if you were a guardian of the temple or someone from Skysplit Tower. The result is death. Wagua did not summon the Maha Elephant. Instead, he summoned his own Heaven Stage Level 3 six-armed giant demon. This was originally his strongest beast. In a head-on battle, it was almost invincible. It wasn't until the Heaven Stage Level 5 Maha Elephant appeared that the six-armed giant demon had no choice but to be ranked second. Six-armed giant demon, gold ranked level 10, equivalent to Heaven ranked level 3. Strengthening type, giant beast, 50 meters tall, has two mutated forms, supporting the owner and fighting independently. 3 heads and 6 arms, copper skin and iron bones, copper head and iron arms, special skills, stunning hammer strike, continuous explosion earthquake wave. When the 50-meter 6-armed troll was summoned, even the female, giant raging flame frowned. She had encountered this kind of beast before. It was extremely difficult to fight. With copper skin and iron bones, it was not afraid of violent attacks at all. Moreover, its recovery ability was extremely strong. Even if it was heavily injured, it would recover after a while. According to Yu Yang, the 6-armed giant demon was one of the unkillable war beasts in the Heaven Realm. Its ferocity was only below that of the Ancient Slaughterer. Their reputation was inferior to the Ancient Slaughterer. The main reason was that the Ancient Slaughterer had the Ancient Slaughterer King of Heaven Stage Level 5. Moreover, the Ancient Slaughterer race mostly appeared as the thugs of the Central Shrine, so they were especially famous. Or rather, infamy. The appearance of the 6-armed giant demon made Raging Flame a little vigilant. It seemed that these 2 Heaven Realm mercenaries who dared to barge into the Temple of Guidance were not good people. Let me do it. Raging Flame was afraid that Yu Yang did not know how powerful the 6-armed giant demon was, so she stepped forward and decided to change her original plan and personally fight against Wagua. "I'm not afraid of you." Wagua was actually trying to embolden himself. After all, Raging Flame was a Heaven Stage Level 5 expert. She was a peak Heaven Stage Level 4 expert. If he were to fight against Yu Yang, Wagua wouldn't have this kind of psychological burden. He felt that he could completely sweep through him. On the surface, he looked like a fool. In fact, Wagua was also a rough person. Otherwise, his master wouldn't have sent an idiot to Tong Tian Tower to search for treasures. As Raging Flame approached step by step, he crazily summoned his war beasts as if he didn't care about money. First, he summoned the strengthening type Earth Demon Bear of Heaven Stage Level 1 to buff him. Then he summoned the Rock Giant of the same level to double his body's defense, because flying was his worst skill. In order to prevent the opponent from taking advantage of this weakness, Wagua summoned a Manicore of Quasi-Heaven Stage to increase his agility and flying ability. When Raging Flame came in front of him, he also summoned a Flying Stone Demon of Quasi-Heaven Stage and a Thunder Toad of Earth Stage Level 8 to buff him. Now, Wagua's body had become very strange. There was the skin of a demonic bear, the arms of a rock giant, the wings of a manticore, the body of a stone demon, and the face of a toad. No matter how many war beasts Raging Flame had, her fighting style was the same, and that was a heavy punch. A punch that carried the power of an ancient dragon landed heavily on Wagua's bulging belly like that of a toad. The fist collided with the belly, and the resulting shockwave caused the entire tomb to shake. However, what made Raging Flame unable to believe was that this Wagua, who had received her full-strength punch, did not take a single step back. Even if it was a giant heaven realm mammoth, if it was hit by such a punch, it would immediately fall to the ground. Even if it was a small mountain, under such a heavy blow, it would also collapse. This Wagua actually used his body to take it head-on. Raging Flame's expression was stunned. Her face was filled with disbelief. Her punch was actually useless? Heaven Stage Level 5. It seems like it's only SOSO. 6-armed giant demon. Second stage, strengthened fusion. Wagua couldn't speak of his bitterness. That punch, just now, almost made him vomit out his internal organs. He desperately swallowed the blood that rushed to his throat. Fortunately, the opponent didn't have any war beast to support him, otherwise, he really wouldn't be able to withstand it. In order to prevent his opponent from seeing through his strength, Wagua quickly allowed the 6-armed giant demon to fuse with him. The 50-meter 6-armed giant demon turned into a thick black light and quickly fused with Wagua. Wagua's originally tall body immediately swelled up. He only stopped when he reached 10 meters. 4 more giant demon arms grew out from under his arms, forming 6 arms. However, he did not grow any more heads. After the 6-armed giant demon of Heaven Stage Level 3, Wagua, who had been raised to a height of 10 meters, had increased his strength and defense by 10 times. Now, his confidence had greatly increased. The heavy fist pierced through the air, its momentum like a roaring thunder as it smashed towards Raging Flame's face. Raging Flame was unafraid. She waved her fist and fought with all her might. Terrifying fists collided with each other and exploded in an instant. That kind of power spread out from the center of the collision of their fists. The ground 10 meters away, the rocks and soil were all turned into nothingness. Even the pillars of the tomb that were tens of meters behind them broke on the spot and collapsed with a loud bang. The heavy sarcophagi that had originally contained the skeletons were sent flying into the air with a rumble, flying 100 meters away. After the collision, this was the first time Raging Flame had sent the enemy flying with pure strength. She was sent flying 20 meters away. She tried her best to stand still, but she still couldn't help but stagger back a few steps before barely managing to stand still. On the other side, the 10-meter-tall Wagua didn't take a single step back. Just his big feet were deeply planted into the ground. When the two were compared, it was obvious who was stronger. Although Raging Flame still couldn't believe it, the truth told her that she, who had dominated the Southern Heaven realm with brute force, was defeated for the first time in a battle of pure strength. Again, Captain Raging Flame was enraged. She would never allow others to overwhelm her with strength. "Hey, didn't you say you would listen to me? Step down." How could Yu Yang let her act recklessly? He immediately shouted at her to stop her recklessness. Raging Flame glared at Yu Yang. She was very unhappy. Right now, it was her battle to turn the situation around. How could he stop her? But when she saw Yu Yang's ice-cold eyes, she immediately came to her senses. Under his stare, she retreated with a bit of protest. "All right, I'll only listen to you once." "Grandpa, I can do it alone. This guy only has the brute force of a war beast. There's nothing special about him." Seeing her retreat, Yu Yang summoned the barbarian cow Shadow from the grimoire world. As soon as Aman came out, she immediately strode towards the 10-meter-tall Wagua. Wagua let out a burst of wild laughter. Laughing out loud, he waved his palm and easily blocked Aman's punch. With a shake of his strength, Aman retreated dozens of meters like an arrow, even further than Captain Raging Flame. However, Aman was more skillful than Captain Raging Flame. She somersaulted 3 times in the air, eliminating the force of the impact and landed lightly beside Yu Yang. Yu Yang gave her 3 giant shadows in a row. The corners of Gu Deng's eyes twitched. This guy's war beast was too abnormal, wasn't it? If this continued, wouldn't it be terrible? A man rushed towards Wugua again, and the 2 fists collided. In the end, Wugua was still better. This time, a man, who had only retreated 15 meters, returned to Yu Yang's side, and Yu Yang gave her 2 more giant shadows. There was no special move, just a punch with all his might. Wugua hurriedly welcomed it with all her might. Compared to the full-strength battle with Raging Flame just now, it was even colder. The entire tomb was shaking crazily. Several stone pillars were broken, and the ground was shattered beyond recognition. Under the deafening shock, Gu Deng's back was covered in cold sweat. At this moment, both Wugua and Man had taken a step back. It was actually a draw. The strength of the 2 was already equal. No, Gu Deng found that Wugua was a little strange. At this moment, Wugua's face was very ugly, showing a greenish-purple color. Wugua couldn't help but open his mouth and vomit. Countless gastric juices and food residues came out of his mouth. He had actually been punched by his opponent. Although it didn't hit his chest, the fist aura passed through his defense and seeped into his abdomen. Even with the protection of Thunder Toad and Earth Demon Bear, Wugua couldn't hold on and vomited on the spot. After spitting out all the acid in his stomach, Wugua painfully straightened his back, wiped his mouth, and snorted, "I just ate too much. Now that I've vomited less, I feel much better." However, he didn't hold on until the end. He immediately summoned the Maha Elephant of Heaven Stage Level 5. He had taken out his final trump card. Chapter 695. The blue light shone brilliantly. In an instant, the entire tomb turned into a blue ocean, reflecting the skin of everyone present into a faint blue color. A sapphire blue cloud rose into the air and quickly condensed. Following that, a special cry rang out. It was like the long hiss of a mammoth, but also like the roar of a dragon. It had a certain majesty to it. The Maha Elephant had yet to appear, but its cold aura had already filled the entire tomb. The female giant of flames was afraid that Yu Yang would be attacked, so she hurriedly came to his side and took up a stance. She was secretly on guard against a sneak attack from the Maha Elephant. At this moment, Gu Deng's face couldn't help but be filled with joy. Although the enemy had a Heaven Stage Level 5, and the other war beast was also very powerful, he had the 6-armed giant demon Wugua on his side, as well as the Maha Elephant and himself. 3 against 2, he should be able to win. The only problem was the masked man, who was extremely fast and was good at concealment. Even if he won, it would be difficult to keep him here. Following the third hiss, in the center of the tomb, an 80-meter-tall sapphire blue elephant that looked like a castle appeared in front of Yu Yang. Its long trunk swayed nimbly, and its 2 tusks were comparable to the most terrifying weapons in the world. As for those 4 indescribably thick thighs, it would make people understand one thing. No matter what kind of war beast it was, if it stepped on it, it would probably not be able to escape a tragic death. Compared to the pillars supporting the tomb, the elephant's legs were like the difference between a tree pole and a chopstick. They were so thick that it made people sigh. Maha Elephant, Platinum ranked Level 10, Heaven Stage Level 5. Warbeast type, Super, Giant, Ancient Warbeast. Special Physique, Boundless Power, Medium Intelligence. Second battle form can be activated after being enraged. Special Skills, Capture, Whip, Strangulation, Charge, Heavy Stomp. Yu Yang, who had used his Heaven Eyes Divine Vision to see the Maha Elephant, frowned this time. It was fine if it was anything else. This Bao Xiang actually had medium intelligence. The most terrifying thing about war beasts was not their high level, nor was it their huge size, but their intelligence. Fortunately, this Maha Elephant was not a holy beast, otherwise it would be even more difficult to eat. With a height of 80 meters, it was even larger than an ordinary castle. It would be a bit difficult to shake such a big fellow. However, to Yu Yang, the greater the challenge, the greater the reward. It just so happened that they lacked such a war beast to train their soldiers. Yu Yang looked at the eager Captain Raging Flames beside him and shook his head. No, there's no place for you. You want to fight? The female giant Raging Flame was sweating profusely. She sized up Yu Yang's body and then looked at the castle-like Maha elephant. She couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. Choking, a man was the first to test the waters for Yu Yang. She was different from when she had fought head-on with Wagua just now. She leaped up like lightning and used a profound battle technique. Using her palm as a blade, she slashed down heavily. First slash, earth-splitting slash. Ordinary beasts couldn't block her attacks. With Amon's current intelligence, the battle skills she used weren't something ordinary beasts could endure. Even if it was a heaven stage war beast, it could only choose to take it head-on or use its speed to dodge. Wild rarely used battle skills, always maintaining her sneak attack state. Very few people expected her to use such a profound battle skill. Who? The Maha elephant's long nose nimbly waved. A man, who was slashed in the air, was swept up. The moment her palm slashed down on its long nose. With a forceful fling, a terrifying force threw a man far away. In the eyes of the Raging Flames, not even 1/100th of a second had passed before a man flew out like an arrow leaving the bow, heavily smashing into the wall of the tomb. Rumble. A large part of the wall collapsed, and the entire tomb shook. The ceiling cracked, and the cracks on the ground spread like a spider web. Raging Flame's eyes bulged out, her face filled with surprise. She felt that she couldn't counterattack as beautifully and cleanly as the Maha elephant. Could it be that she was inferior to it? When Raging Flame saw the light in the Maha elephant's eyes, she felt that the other party seemed to be mocking her. She became even more furious. It was one thing to be bullied by this brat Yu Yang, but a mere elephant dare to look down on others? Ignoring Yu Yang's obstruction, she erupted with the dragon power from her entire body. Her fiery hair danced in the wind, as if she was carrying a sky full of raging flames. She threw a heavy punch towards the Maha elephant. This punch was filled with her anger, and it was even more powerful than her usual all-out attack. Ha! Raging Flame, who was still in the air, discovered that the Maha elephant had swung its long nose. A huge force struck her, and Raging Flame found herself involuntarily flying backwards, instantly surpassing Yu Yang's body. Following Amon's previous trajectory, she continuously broke several pillars supporting the tomb, and also heavily smashed into the tomb wall, deeply sinking. Ha ha! Wagua laughed so hard that his eyes were splashing. He waved his hands and shouted at Yu Yang, "Fool! The Maha elephant is invincible on land. Do you think there are any other war beasts in the world that can challenge it, which is at the 5th level of Heaven Stage? Do you know how smart it is? Apart from not being able to speak, it's even smarter than humans. Do you know how flexible its nose is? What humans can do with their hands, it can do with its nose, or even better." At this moment, a trace of a smile appeared on Gu Deng's face. However, he was different from Agua. He wouldn't relax until the final moment of victory. After the Maha elephant sent Amon and Raging Flame flying, Gu Deng remained vigilant, and he wouldn't give up just like that. On the contrary, he wanted to take advantage of the victory and try to annihilate all his enemies. Gu Deng quietly summoned his various war beasts. First, it was the plant-type war beast Crazy Dancing Grass that could attack mentally. This plant-type war beast had always been weak before, but after reaching Heaven Stage, it would become the enemy's nightmare. Its mental attack was a great killing weapon that the enemy couldn't resist. As long as it started to dance, the enemy would have a splitting headache until they couldn't take it anymore and their heads exploded. In addition to the Heaven Stage Level 1 Crazy Dancing Grass, Gu Deng also summoned the Heaven Stage Level 2 Black Demon. This kind of Black Demon, in addition to having powerful combat strength, also had an extremely strong mental force field. It could not only search for enemies, but it could also mentally torture enemies trapped in its mental force field. Gu Deng was afraid that the masked man would escape, so he chose the Quasi-Heaven Stage Nighthawk as his third war beast. The quasi-heaven stage Nighthawk had an extremely strong tracking ability. Of course, Gu Deng didn't expect it to be effective. After all, he felt that the pressure the masked man gave him was even greater than that of the female giant. For the fourth war beast, Gu Deng chose the Earthquake Dragon of Heaven Stage Level 3. Although it wasn't a dragon, the Earthquake Dragon was also a giant war beast, similar to the six-armed giant demon and the Maha Elephant. However, although its body was about the same size as the Maha Elephant, its combat strength was far inferior, and even below the six-armed giant demon. The only good thing was that it had the special skill of devouring and chewing the enemy. If it could activate the special skill and swallow the female giant into its mouth, then the battle would definitely be won. Another thing was that the Earthquake Dragon and the Maha Elephant were both very large. In this tomb that wasn't too big, it was very advantageous. Countless enemies would be easily attacked, no matter where they hid. He and Magua only needed to be responsible for sealing the exit of the secret passage. Come on, Mass Brat. Use all your shameful moves. Haha, and no matter how you struggle, it's useless. You will all die here. With the Maha Elephant, victory was already certain. Gu Deng had summoned the Black Demon and the Earthquake Dragon. In addition, he had fused with the six-armed giant demon and strengthened himself. No matter how the enemy fought, they wouldn't have a chance of winning. That's all you have? A mysterious smile appeared on Yu Yang's lips. It seems powerful on the surface, but it's just a small trick. Nonsense. Wagua flew towards Yu Yang, preparing to beat him down. What was waiting for Wagua was a pitch-black muzzle. The muzzle of the cannon began to accumulate energy. Wagua saw that the situation wasn't good. He braced himself and used his body's copper skin and iron bones to punch towards Yu Yang and Ika, determined not to retreat. However, Gu Deng didn't want his companion to suffer such a loss. His body was like lightning as he flew towards Wagua's waist. He ruthlessly knocked him out of the trajectory of the muzzle. A terrifying pillar of energy streaked across the sky. Wherever it passed, all matter turned into nothingness. His scalp was lightly rubbed by the outer edge of the energy pillar. Wagua's head was completely black, and he had almost become bald. The remaining hair was emitting miserable black smoke. Wagua's jaw dropped to the ground. His eyes looked as if he had seen a ghost. His skin, which had the blessing of many war beasts, couldn't even resist the outer edge of the energy pillar. He reached out his hand to touch the bloody pit on the side of his head. He stared blankly at his hand that was covered in blood. After a long time, he muttered, "Impossible. I have the strengthening of the six-armed giant demon. How could I be injured?" What shocked him the most was that his wound did not immediately recover. If it was a normal injury, the wound would disappear without a trace in less than a second. But now, there was no sign of it healing at all. Boom! Boom! The Maha Elephant and the Earthquake Dragon rushed up. Their master was in trouble, so of course they wouldn't sit idly by. After the battle with the Red Dragonfly, Ika's movement technique was 100 times more agile than before. Her speed was even faster than lightning. Even the Maha Elephant's nose couldn't catch her body. She could even play with her opponent, deliberately flying back and forth in front of the Maha Elephant. This was all because of the movement technique she had comprehended during the battle. It was impossible for Ika to do this before fighting against the terrifyingly fast and unstoppable Red Dragonfly. Although the Maha Elephant also had the special ability to capture compared to the Red Dragonfly, the difference was too great. Now, after deep reflection, Ika, who had learned how to use super speed and mysterious 3 styles from Yu Yang, had the heart to fight the Red Dragonfly again. Right now, it was still a bit difficult to fight against the Maha Elephant, a behemoth of Heaven Stage Level 5, but it was still possible to play tricks on his opponent with his movement technique. Back then, the Red Dragonfly's combat strength wasn't considered strong, but made it impossible for her to attack. This was the advantage of speed. Don't worry about that woman. Just kill this masked brat. Wagua discovered that it was unwise for the Maha Elephant to compete with a flying war beast. No matter when, The best way to fight was to attack the Warbeast's master. TSK, don't think that you're the only one with a big guy. I'm smarter. Yu Yang summoned the giant lowly from the grimoire world. When Gu Dang saw that it was an ancient titan, he was so scared that he spat out water. Isn't this kid too arrogant? He actually had the help of an ancient titan. Chapter 696. As soon as the giant lowly appeared, she immediately overturned the earthquake dragon. Although the Maha elephant and the earthquake dragon were huge, they still paled in comparison to her, who was more than 200 meters tall. The only advantage of their size was that they were extremely heavy. Even if they weren't as tall, they could barely be classified as giant war beasts. Of course, it was impossible for them to compare with ancient beasts like the ancient demon shark, the cuttlefish king, and the dragon electric eel that were as huge as the luxurious Starry Sky cruise ship. The earthquake dragon belonged to the subdragon category. Perhaps in the era of its ancestors, it had inherited a bit of the dragon's bloodline. However, regardless of size or strength, there was a huge gap between it and a true ancient dragon. The same was true for the Maha elephant. In Yu Yang's heaven-eyes divine vision, he could see that this Maha elephant didn't originally have such a huge body. Instead, it had obtained the blood of some kind of divine beast. After fusing with it, it had doubled in size and strength. The Maha elephant used its trunk to wrap around the giant lowly's calf, wanted to flip her over and trample on her with its 4 feet. The giant lowly angrily rebuked. She bent down and grabbed the Maha elephant's fangs. The power of her arms exploded, directly tilting the Maha elephant's huge body to the side. Just as she was about to overturn the other party, the earthquake dragon charged over and hit the other side of the giant lowly's body, causing her to lose her balance. After being attacked, the giant lowly staggered back a few steps before stabilizing her body. This time, she was even more infuriated. She grabbed the earthquake dragon's neck tightly, flipped over, and rode on its body. She swung her fists and punched the earthquake dragon, causing it to scream miserably. The Maha elephant waved its trunk and nimbly wrapped it around her wrist. It used its strength to drag her down from the earthquake dragon's back to save the earthquake dragon from its predicament. The giant lowly leaped and used the momentum to flip off the earthquake dragon's back. She flew up and kicked the Maha elephant's forehead. The fight between the 3 big guys was even more terrifying than the collapse of the heavens and the earth. The tomb quickly collapsed. It was impossible for it to support this kind of battle. Wherever the 3 big guys passed, everything was destroyed. Oh my God, this is too scary. Captain Raging Flames, who had jumped out of the rubble, was also dumbfounded when she saw this scene. Although she was confident in her own strength, compared to the 3 big guys in front of her, there was no way she could compare. Be it in terms of size or strength, they weren't on the same level. As the giant lowly of the ancient Titan royal family, although she was currently fighting alone, she was not at a disadvantage in a 1 versus 2 fight. She, who was more than 200 meters tall, fought against the Maha elephant and the earthquake dragon, who were less than 100 meters tall. She had a huge advantage in height, but the Maha elephant and the earthquake dragon's bodies were too huge, and their tonnage was too heavy. In addition, it was 2 against 1, and they had the advantage of numbers and levels. For a moment, the 3 of them were locked in battle. The battle was in a stalemate, and it was difficult to determine the victor. Legua discovered that the Maha elephant of Heaven Stage Level 5 was stronger than he had imagined. With the help of the earthquake dragon, even if the opponent had an ancient titan, he could still fight to the end. He immediately heaved a sigh of relief. He charged towards Raging Flames, who was still watching the battle in a daze. His 6 giant arms rained down attacks. He charged towards Raging Flame's face. Legua looked simple and honest on the outside, but he was actually very meticulous and thoughtful. There was actually a reason why he chose to fight against Raging Flame, who was of a higher level than him. Now, he could already see that the female giant had a body full of strength, but she didn't have any war beasts to help her. In fact, he still had the upper hand when fighting against her. The masked man was different. His war beasts were endless. Fighting against such an abnormal fellow would be a bit of a disadvantage. Wugwa decided to let his companion Gu Deng fight against the masked man. He was responsible for suppressing this female giant who didn't have any war beasts to help her. Will I be afraid of you? When it came to fighting head-on, Raging Flame had never been afraid. Raging Flame waved her fist and collided with Wugwa. While using her movement technique, she circled around Wugwa, who was still slower than her. She was very stubborn, but she was definitely not a fool. In a situation where her strength was almost the same, she did not fight to the end with Wugwa, who had multiple war beasts. Instead, she used her movement technique and speed to deal with her opponent. On the other side, the battle between Black Demon and Man had also broken out. Not only did the Black Demon possess great strength, it was also proficient in mental attacks. In a mental force field with its body as the center, all the opponents would be constantly attacked by its mind. If it was before the battle with the Wry-Face Mushroom, it might have been difficult for Man to resist this kind of mental attack at any time and place. Now, her mental resistance had increased by a lot. Although it was still affected, she could use at least 90% of her strength, and it wasn't reduced by too much. The Black Demon was in a lot of pain. It had a 20-meter-tall body, but its strength was far inferior to Man's. Once it was hit by her, it would definitely be sent flying. Fortunately, it also had a special skill that could transform into smoke to eliminate the enemy's attack. Under the attacks of the Quasi-Heaven Stage Nighthawk and the Heaven Stage Level 1 Crazy Dancing Grass, IKA flew up and down freely. She was practicing the mysterious 3 styles in actual combat. The Crazy Dancing Grass was ineffective against her mental attack, and the grass seeds it shot out were easily cut away by her Angel's Blade. As for the Nighthawk, with its super flying ability, it was like a clumsy drunkard in front of IKA. The flying ability of the two was on a completely different level. Whether it was speed or flying skills, the Nighthawk was overshadowed in front of IKA. The secret passageway collapsed. Because of the battle between the giant Lowly, the Maha Elephant, and the Earthquake Dragon, the tomb and the secret passage were constantly being destroyed. Gu Deng consciously forced Yu Yang to retreat to the teleportation array at the exit of the tomb. Yu Yang pretended to be tricked. When the tomb collapsed, he retreated into the exit teleportation array and entered the unit world filled with yellow sand. As soon as he retreated, Gu Deng was overjoyed and immediately chased after him. In her mind, no matter how powerful Yu Yang was, she felt that she had to protect him. Of course, Wugwa didn't want to stay in this tomb, where he could be buried alive at any time. At the same time, he rushed into the unit world and chased after Raging Flame. IKA, Nighthawk, Crazy Dancing Grass, Man, and Black Demon also entered. Only the 3 big guys who weren't afraid of being buried alive continued to stay here. The battle was endless. Steel-Tooth Sand Spider. When Gu Deng stepped on the yellow sand, he immediately summoned a Heaven Stage Level 1 Steel-Tooth Sand Spider to help the struggling Black Demon create a quicksand trap from the ground to restrain Man, Bovine Bat. Wugwa also summoned an Earth Stage Level 8 Bovine Bat to help Nighthawk restrain IKA. In terms of the battle situation, Nighthawk and Crazy Dancing Grass were more dangerous. It was a pity that Gu Deng no longer had any flying war beasts, and Wugwa didn't have many flying war beasts either. They weren't the best at aerial combat, and flying war beasts were their weakness. Wugwa hesitated for a long time before summoning the Star Scorpion, which he had only contracted when he arrived at Tong Tian Tower and had low loyalty, to let it participate in the battle. Star Scorpion, Gold Level 10, equivalent to Heaven Stage Level 1. War Beast, Gold Blood, Star Shell, Low Intelligence, Special Skills, Scorpion Poison, Star Luo. What made Wugwa happy was that after the Star Scorpion was summoned, it didn't betray him. It didn't immediately attack, but moved back and forth, as if looking for a suitable opponent. For the time being, it couldn't decide whether to attack Man or IK, who was flying beautifully in the sky. Flee! Wugwa summoned the last war beast. Although it was only equivalent to Earth Stage Level 5 Gold Level 5, Wagwa didn't expect the flea to hurt the enemy. As long as it could harass the battle angel in the sky, it would be fine. Sure enough, as soon as the flea appeared, it bounced all over the sky. IKA wasn't worried at all. The mysterious 3 styles that she had been maintaining had also ended. The angry IKA used the cannon barrel to fire 8 or 9 shots. However, the flea's body wasn't big and its speed was astonishing. With a bit of luck, the 9 shots in a row were unable to kill it. IKA waved the angel's blade and pounced forward, ready to kill the detestable flea. It also realized that something was wrong and hurriedly hid in the quicksand cave created by the steel-toothed sand spider, not daring to come out again. Nighthawk, crazy dancing grass, and the bovine bat that joined later surrounded her. IKA had no choice but to fly up with hatred. In her second form, she transformed into Yu Bing and continued to cultivate her mysterious 3 styles. Gu Deng brandished a long and narrow scimitar and fought fiercely with Yu Yang. Yu Yang waved the crescent moon in his left hand and fought with Gu Deng in a quick battle. He held the Tao Tai blade in his right hand and didn't make a move, hiding the power of a fatal blow. Because of this, Gu Deng didn't dare to attack with all his might, fearing that Yu Yang would counterattack. The 2 blades intersected, and the sparks from the impact were like fireworks, scattering far away. Like fireworks, the sky was full of fireworks. Half an hour had passed, and the battle was in a stalemate as always. The 2 sides were locked in battle. After exchanging hundreds of punches with raging flames, Wagwa's body and strength had gradually declined from its peak state. He shouted at Gu Deng, "What are you waiting for? If you can't take down that masked brat, then change opponents." Wagwa discovered that although this female giant didn't have the help of a war beast, she was still a bit difficult to deal with. First of all, the opponent's level was higher. The 5th level of Heaven Stage formed a level suppression on his peak 4th level of Heaven Stage. If it weren't for the help of so many war beasts, he would have been defeated long ago. The most terrifying thing was that this female giant didn't show any signs of exhaustion even after hundreds of punches. Her endurance and brute force were equally terrifying. Of course, it wasn't just Wagwa who felt that something was amiss. Even Raging Flames herself felt that her endurance was much better than before. Could it be that when that brat used the Nirvana flame to expel the dragon plague and purify his body, he had reconstructed his physique? But even if it was the reconstruction of his physique, wasn't this too exaggerated? In the past, Raging Flames could also fight for a long time, but it was impossible for her to reach the level she was today. Now, not only was she not tired, she even felt more excited as she fought, as if she had just warmed up. Hey, don't act recklessly. When Gu Deng saw Wagwa throw away the flames and rush straight to his side, insisting on exchanging opponents, he couldn't help but feel a burst of fear in his heart. He had never fought with this masked brat before, so he didn't know how powerful he was. This brat had a backup plan for every move he made, and he could even borrow the enemy's strength to counterattack. With Wagwa's brute force attack type Heaven Stage, fighting him was simply looking for trouble. Gu Deng felt that fighting with Yu Yang was the stupidest thing to do. This brat's battle skills were simply superb. Any attack would be restrained, especially the most miserable pure power attack. He could reverse all of it. Warm-up is over. Yu Yang's figure soared into the sky. With him as the center, the Heaven's Fury Fire Lotus and the extreme cold ice and frost split the desert into 2 completely different worlds. He put away the crescent moon and Tao Tai blade. Yao and Yu, the war god guard sisters, appeared on both sides of him. This was the first time they had officially joined forces with him in battle. In the Heaven Realm, because he was worried about exposing his true strength, Yu Yang had never had the chance to fight together with the war god guard sisters. Now, in this uninhabited unit world, he finally had the chance to display it. Bow of Wings. After cultivating with the war god guard sisters, Yu Yang had already mastered a portion of their method of transforming into humanoid divine weapons. Although he was still far from being able to unleash its full power, it was still a good start. He stretched out his hand and grabbed the slender waist of the war godguard sister. The dragon lady's sister, Feather, stretched out her entire body, closed her hands and legs, and bent backwards like a bow. In the blink of an eye, she had transformed into a beautiful humanoid bow. Chapter 697. The extreme fire was the bowstring, the extreme cold frost was the arrow, and the purple lightning was the power. When Yu Yang used the little dragon girl as a bow and shot this arrow, not to mention the enemies in front of him, Gu Deng and Wugua, even the flames on the ground were shocked. Using a person as a bow. What kind of battle technique was this? Although she had fought in the Heaven Realm for a long time and had seen all kinds of strange fighting methods, she had never seen anyone like Yu Yang, who used a person as a bow. The corners of Wugua and Gu Deng's eyes twitched. They couldn't imagine what kind of damage this arrow would cause. Before Yu Yang could shoot, Wugua had already run away. He abandoned Gu Deng and turned to escape. How? An arrow that tore apart the heavens and earth. Even space itself was torn apart by this terrifying arrow. Faster than light, the arrow shot out in an unstoppable manner. It easily pierced through several powerful war beasts and Wugua, who had fused with the six-armed giant arms. An arrow came from behind and pierced through his chest. Wugua's body trembled slightly. He couldn't believe that he had been hit by an arrow. He couldn't feel any pain at all. He could only feel the terrifying sensation of his chi being locked on. He felt his body lighten, as if he had lost something. He looked down at his chest and found that there was a huge transparent hole in the location of his heart. The beating heart and other internal organs had completely disappeared after the arrow. Impossible. Wugua's thick lips trembled as he clumsily said, "I have the protection of the six-armed giant demon. It's impossible for an arrow to pierce through my body." Ah! Gu Deng roared crazily. He had unleashed the strongest power in his life and had overdrawn himself to the limit. Even the life potential that he had never used easily had been completely burned. In an instant, he had risen to the peak of the 4th level of the heaven stage. With the highest speed, the strongest mental power was attached to the platinum-ranked cyan moon blade in his hand. With an irresistible force, he slashed towards Yu Yang. He knew very well that if he opened up a distance, the other party, who was using him as a bow, could easily shoot him and Wugua. The only hope of survival lay in close combat. He had to fight in close combat so that he couldn't widen the distance between them and use him as a bow. Gu Deng used all his energy, hoping to heavily injure his opponent and escape from this unit world. Judging from the endless attacks of the opponent, he and Wugua had hit an iron plate this time. Not to mention victory. Even escaping was extremely difficult. Sword of Two Wings. When Yu Yang raised his right hand, the war god guard Yao, the serious-looking elder sister dragon lady. Her whole body was stuck to Yu Yang's right arm, her hands hugging it tightly, her legs straightened, and her whole body formed a straight line. In the blink of an eye, although she was in human form, she had successfully transformed into a human-shaped sword. The innate, invisible sword chi that Yu Yang injected into her body increased by 100-fold. Even if Yu Yang couldn't unleash her full power, the innate sword chi that shot out from her closed legs was at least 100 meters long. Gu Deng, who was slashing at him with all his might, couldn't help but be scared out of his wits when he saw this terrifying change. Yu Yang casually waved his sword and slashed forward. It wasn't even a battle technique. It wasn't like the earth-splitting slash from before. It was just an ordinary casual slash. The entire sky was sliced in half by this sword, and a 100-meter-long crack appeared in the space, exploding like a thunderclap. The platinum-ranked cyan moonblade was infused with all of Gu Deng's strength and mental power. It glows with light. When the war god guard swung his sword, it was even more fragile than a piece of wood. It was easily cut in half. Ah! Seeing the sword slash down on his head, Gu Deng dodged it with his greatest reaction at the last moment. Because his body changed direction too quickly, his waist was almost twisted when he turned. He, who had attacked with all his strength, suffered a huge backlash. His internal organs were severely damaged, and blood spurted out of his mouth. However, Gu Deng didn't care about any of this. What he was afraid of was the sword strike that had almost killed him. He tried to lift his right hand, but found that it was strangely detached from his arm. It fell to the ground with a pa sound. It turned out that at the same time the Siam Moonblade was cut off, his arm had already been cut off. Gu Deng's eyes bulged as he looked at the broken arm that was slowly oozing blood. His expression was as terrifying as if he had seen a ghost. He didn't feel any pain just now, and he didn't even know that he was injured. The power of a single sword strike was actually this terrifying. Looking at Yu Yang in the sky, Gu Deng felt powerless. How could such an enemy be his match? No matter how many powerful war beasts he had, how could they compare to the twin sisters beside him, who could transform into humanoid weapons? Not to mention Gu Deng and Wugua. Even Yu Yang himself couldn't believe it. The war god guard transformed into a humanoid divine weapon was too powerful. They hadn't even been able to unleash 100% of their power, and they were already able to reach this level. If they were to unleash 100% of their power, or use their bodies to condense He Gui Zong by Shuanghua and Qi Xiaoyan, then what realm would they reach? This was only the beginning, and he hadn't even used his full strength yet. Wugua and Gu Deng, who were at the peak of the 4th level of Heaven stage, had already been defeated by him. If he went all out, even a 5th or 6th level of Heaven stage wouldn't be able to escape death. With the war God Guard sisters and the comprehension of Qi Xiaoyan, Yu Yang suddenly had the urge to challenge the Lionheart King, or challenge an expert at the level of the Lionheart King. With such a powerful humanoid divine weapon in hand, would he be able to fight against the Lionheart King? Yu Yang wasn't sure, but he was a little excited. He felt that he could at least give a try. Before this, he didn't have this kind of confidence at all. The war God Guard sisters flew up and wrapped their arms around Yu Yang's waist. Their bodies extended backwards, and their 4 wings spread out, as if Yu Yang had grown 4 dragon wings. At this moment, his flying speed was 10 times faster than Yu Yang's usual speed. It was as if he could reach it with a single thought. It wasn't teleportation, but it also ignored the distance in space. Just as the thought of chasing after him arose in Yu Yang's mind, he was shocked to discover that he had already flown behind the crazily fleeing Wugua. What he was doing was stretching his legs. The war God Guard Yao, elder sister dragon lady, tacitly slid down and hugged his right leg, turning herself into a part of his body. Her strength increased 100 times from her body, and with Yu Yang's will to kick people, her legs bombarded the back of Wugua's head. Boom! Wugua was sent flying 1,000 meters away, creating a deep sand pit that was several meters high. Like a meteor, he smashed out a huge pit with a radius of 100 meters. Wugua, who had already been shot through the chest, was immediately severely injured. Wugua struggled a few times, but did not immediately stand up. When Yu Yang saw this, he felt a little ashamed. The strength of this kick wasn't actually that great, but with the help of the elder sister dragon lady, it actually caused serious injuries to Wugua. 2 deep footprints appeared on that huge head, and the skull inside the skull also showed signs of shattering. If Yu Yang were to attack with all his might, this peak 4th level heaven stage Wugua's head would probably explode. Gu Deng weakly sat on the ground. His spirit could no longer support his body. Facing such an enemy, he couldn't beat him, nor could he escape. He really didn't know what to do. Raging Flame's mouth was wide open, and she couldn't close it for a long time. She knew that Yu Yang's war beasts were abnormally strong, but she really didn't expect that even these 2 dragon lady sisters, who rarely appeared, would be this terrifying. After Yu Yang knocked down Wugua, he no longer used the war God Guard sisters to attack Gu Deng. Instead, he summoned the bloody Queen Red, the spirit of heaven fire, and the Reaper Mantis to let them join the battle. He suppressed the excitement in his heart and constantly tried to condense the 3 swords of Black Gui Tsang, White Shuanghua, and Qi Xiaoyan with the 2 war God Guard sisters. He felt that he had gained a lot of inspiration from this battle. He hoped to grasp it and further comprehend it. Raging Flame rushed to Gu Deng's side. Seeing his dejected appearance, she hesitated for a moment and did not attack. She only watched him vigilantly. Occasionally, she secretly glanced at Yu Yang, who was constantly comprehending new realms. The mood of the master's defeat had seriously affected the will of the war beasts. The morale of the black demon, crazy dancing grass, nighthawk, and the others had plummeted. The bovine bat and the steel-tooth sand spider had the urge to escape, and the star scorpion had simply defected. With its low level of intelligence, it would never follow a dying weakling. Besides, Wagua had used a barbaric method to contract it, which was not what it wanted. It was already pretty good that Wagua had only defected after being heavily injured to the ground. In fact, as soon as the star scorpion was summoned, it had the thought of immediately defecting and attacking its temporary master. However, because the battle was tense, it did not take action. The weakest flea jumped out of the sand cave. The sand cave was no longer safe. The spear of heaven fire rushed in and almost burned it to death. In the Capricorn Temple, Bloody Queen Red had obtained a special skill called sheep transformation. That was the reward for clearing the Capricorn Temple Guardian in the 12 Zodiac Temples. Unfortunately, this demonic technique had extremely strict restrictions. Initially, it could only transform war beasts below gold level 6 into sheep. Its real effect was not as good as Bloody Queen Red's Banshee Scream and Whip of Pain. As Bloody Queen Red advanced to Holy Beast and approached Divine Beast, this special skill was also improving, but it was very slow. Now, as long as it wasn't a Heaven Stage War Beast, Bloody Queen Red could use sheep transformation. She rarely used this kind of extremely restrictive special skill. Once the Banshee Scream was used, it would directly stun the enemy. It was more suitable to cooperate with Yu Yang's attack. Now that Yu Yang didn't participate in the battle, and the other side had a flea that bounced around, it was very annoying. Bloody Queen Red was furious and spent a lot of mental power to activate the special skill. The flea that was bouncing in the air turned into a black goat with a snap. The Reaper Mantis that couldn't catch it for a long time pounced down at high speed. Before the black goat could react, it immediately locked it with its sickle pincers. It opened its mouth wide and began to tear it apart. The black goat screamed incessantly, but this couldn't change its fate of death. Even if it was a flea, if it was caught by the Reaper Mantis, it would definitely die, let alone become a goat. The second unlucky one was the Quasi-Heaven Stage Nighthawk. The Bloody Queen let out an extremely sharp banshee scream above its head. The Nighthawk fainted on the spot and fell from the sky. Bloody Queen Red, who was holding the gold dragon slaying dagger, attacked with all her might. The dragon-slaying dagger pierced deeply into the Nighthawk's eye and penetrated its skull. Even the hard magic crystal was pierced through. Its death caused Gu Deng's body to shake and wake up. Seeing that the situation had worsened, he felt that there was no hope of survival. With a loud roar, he pounced towards Yu Yang, who was studying how to condense the Gue Song Shuang Hua sword on the War Godguard sisters. Self-destruct. Even if he died, he was unwilling to let this powerful enemy leave the unit world. With such a young man in Tong Tian Tower, his master could forget about obtaining the treasures in the god's ruins. You're simply courting death. Raging Flame was already prepared for Gu Deng's attack. She threw several heavy punches in a row, knocking Gu Deng to the ground. She then grabbed Gu Deng's leg and threw him 1,000 meters away, like a strong man throwing a chicken. Don't kill him for now. Yu Yang was forced to stop his meditation. After thinking for a while, he decided to return to the tomb to see how the giant Loli was doing. Weren't the Maha Treasure Elephant and the Earthquake Dragon very arrogant? Now, let them try the power of the War Godguard Sisters' humanoid divine weapon and see if they can still pull up. Yu Yang kicked Wagua, who had just struggled to stand up, and sent him flying 100 meters away, causing him to fall to the ground again. The War Godguard Sisters, one on the left and one on the right. Accompanying Yu Yang, they returned to the tomb with him. Chapter 698. When Yu Yang returned to the tomb, he found that it had already been destroyed. It was not appropriate to use ruins to describe it. What surprised Yu Yang even more was that the Maha Elephant of Heaven Stage Level 5 had actually betrayed him. In the collapsed tomb, Only the giant lowly and the earthquake dragon were left fighting each other. The almost unintelligent but loyal earthquake dragon held its ground and fought the giant lowly head on even though its companion had fled. Even if the Maha elephant joined hands to fight, it would only be able to tie with the giant lowly. Now that the Maha elephant had run away, the earthquake dragon was at a complete disadvantage. Its body was flipped over by the giant lowly and was beaten up. However, it still wrapped its tail around her calf and would rather die than let her chase after the Maha elephant. I'll hit. The giant lowly was having a good time fighting when she realized that Yu Yang had returned. She found it a little strange. Yu Yang smiled slightly, indicating for her to continue. He brought the two war god guard sisters along the collapsed secret path and chased after the Maha elephant. If the Maha elephant of Heaven Stage Level 5 hadn't betrayed him, Yu Yang had thought about whether or not he should accept this Maha elephant with intermediate intelligence. Even if he didn't need it, he could give it to the girls or Yi Kong and the others. However, the Maha elephant's betrayal after being heavily injured, especially when abandoned the earthquake dragon, made Yu Yang's heart turn cold. Sometimes, a war beast that was too smart and disloyal would be a fatal disaster on the battlefield if it wasn't controlled well. Yu Yang now understood why he was able to send Wugua flying with a single kick. The reason was that the Maha elephant's betrayal had caused the originally injured Wugua to suffer a heavy blow, greatly weakening it and increasing its injuries. Heaven Stage Level 5 and Intermediate Intelligence were both good, but no matter how powerful a war beast was, it still had to have one condition, and that was loyalty. Without loyalty, this kind of war beast could not be allowed to escape in the face of battle. If Yang had to choose now, he would rather choose the earthquake dragon that was heavily injured and bathed in blood but still stubbornly holding back the giant lowly. Its strength was far inferior to the Maha elephant, but the earthquake dragon was a trustworthy war beast. When its master was in danger, there was no need to worry that it would leave. Guardian beasts might not be very intelligent, but they had a trait that would always make their master feel at ease, and that was loyalty. They would rather die than betray. If a beast wasn't smart, it could be slowly nurtured. If a beast wasn't strong enough, it could also be slowly nurtured. However, if a beast wasn't loyal enough, it would be extremely dangerous. Some beasts were naturally not very loyal, and more powerful they were, the less loyal they were. There were also some beasts that looked very loyal on the surface, but once they met with danger, they would immediately survey their surroundings and flee. The Maha elephant was undoubtedly the latter. Compared to those beasts that didn't seem to be loyal on the surface, it was even more terrifying and a hidden danger. Yu Yang had long since dispelled the thought of subduing the Maha elephant and decided to kill this war beast with the strength of Heaven Stage Level 5. He wanted to take the blood of the divine beast in its body. The reason why the Maha elephant was so powerful was because it had the blood of a divine beast in its body, forming a special physique that allowed it to rise to the 5th level of Heaven Stage. In a unit world filled with yellow sand, even though Yu Yang had left, the battle situation had not changed. Gu Deng and Wugua's defeat had already been formed, and it was irreversible. Gu Deng, who had lost his right arm and weapon, was completely no match for the Raging Flame Fist. Furthermore, he had already severely overdrawn his energy and was currently in a weak state, so he was no match for the Raging Flame Fist. With the advantage of his special movement technique, Gu Deng was barely able to protect himself from the Raging Flame Fist. A man wrapped the God-binding chain around the Black Demon's neck and used all her strength to strangle her opponent. The Black Demon struggled with all its might, but every time it struggled, a man would swing her fist and heavily smash its head. Black blood flowed out of its 7 orifices, and its throat emitted waves of sorrowful cries. It was no longer as mighty as when it had used the spiritual force field to attack a man. Its spirit was exhausted, its morale was low, and its strength was gradually exhausted. If it wasn't for the fear of death supporting it and allowing it to struggle with its last bit of strength, it would have fallen under a man's fist long ago. With the heart of the earth and the power of Titan, and with the support of the 5 giant shadows, Man stood on the ground and fought. She was like an indefatigable war goddess. At the end of the enemy's struggle, Man stretched out her hands. She twisted the black demon's head, and with a snap, broke its neck. The 20-meter-tall black demon, with the strength of the second level of Heaven stage, was still wriggling its body and limbs, as if it still wanted to fight. Man didn't look at it again, and only roared excitedly towards the sky. Under the god-binding chain, the black demon was unable to turn into smoke. After Man broke her neck, she tragically lay on the ground, quietly waiting for death. Boom! After the black demon, the crazy dancing grass also fell. Facing an opponent like the battle angel Ike, if she hadn't deliberately practiced the mysterious 3 styles in battle, the crazy dancing grass would have died a long time ago. Ike first stretched out her hand and made a gesture to condense ice. The moment she froze the crazy dancing grass, her other hand condensed another thunderbolt and exploded on the top of the crazy dancing grass. This was the fighting skill that Shui Wuxia had taught her. Then, Ike turned her body, and the angel's blade formed a huge sword, chopping the crazy dancing grass in half with an unstoppable force. This was the skill that Princess Sisai had taught her. Finally, Ike dug out the crazy heart from the stem of the crazy dancing grass. This was not taught to her by anyone. It was the result of a subtle influence. The main influence was, of course, Yu Yang, who often killed people and stole their treasures. The bovine bat had already escaped 10 kilometers away, but it couldn't escape the pursuit of the bloody Queen Red. With a whip of pain, the bovine bat fell to the ground with a miserable cry. It was also a little cunning. It wanted to pretend to be dead to sneak attack the bloody Queen Red. It deliberately oozed blood from its mouth and nose, pretending to be dying. The bloody Queen Red, who had been fighting for a long time, could not be plotted against by it. When she pretended to be fooled and flew close, she threw out the golden dragon slaying dagger and directly shot through the bovine bat's head. The bovine bat, who tried to steal a chicken but ended up losing the rice, flapped its huge wings in pain and fled back to the sky, desperately fleeing into the distance. The spirit of Heaven Fire, who had snatched the credit, did not wait for the bloody Queen Red to attack. She had already rolled up the storm and surrounded the bovine bat in the center of the storm. Thousands of Firebee guards rushed into the center of the storm and nailed the bovine bat. One by one, they self-destructed. The bovine bat was covered with cuts and bruises in this kind of self-destruction. In the end, the spirit of Heaven Fire used the thunder and lightning storm to directly tear the charred meat into pieces. Except for a blue magic crystal, there was almost nothing left. To Man and Ika's surprise, the Heaven Stage Star Scorpion suddenly attacked the Steel Tooth Sand Spider that was drilling underground, forcing it out of the ground. The Steel Tooth Sand Spider's strength was comparable to that of the Star Scorpion, but it had suffered 18 lifetimes of bad luck. If it were any other war beast of the same level, it would be almost invincible in an environment like the sand. However, the Star Scorpion was its natural enemy. After being pounced by the Star Scorpion, the Steel Tooth Sand Spider frantically drilled out of the ground, looking for water to drink. Only a large amount of water could temporarily relieve the scorpion poison. The result was very tragic. It had just climbed out of the sand and found that in this unit world, there was nothing but sand. Without a lot of water, the Steel Tooth Sand Spider did not need Man to do anything. It crawled slowly for a while, its whole body paralyzed. Its body gradually turned golden. In the end, its entire body seemed to be made of gold, turning into a golden texture. Not only it, but even Gu Deng, who had just been knocked to the ground by Raging Flame, was sneak attacked by the Star Scorpion hidden in the sand. Damn it! Without hesitation, Gu Deng used his hand knife to cut off the right leg that was hit by the Star Scorpion's pincer. That right leg, not long after it fell to the sand, turned golden along with the blood that dripped out. In a dozen seconds, Gu Deng's right leg that had been cut off by himself had turned into a golden right leg. The blood that dripped out also flowed like liquid gold. Raging Flame paused for a moment and advised Gu Deng to surrender. The situation is over. You have no chance to make a comeback. There's no point in fighting like this. Surrender. I'll spare your life. Gu Deng shook his head with a bitter smile and waved his hand. Although I'm afraid of death, it's impossible for me to surrender. I know too many secrets, and it's impossible for me to live. I appreciate your kindness, but I have my own master. What I have to do is not surrender, but keep secrets. Raging Flame was silent for a moment. She advised again, even if you die, he has a way to dig out your secrets. The big guy over there won't die yet. You're doing something meaningless. Gu Deng glanced at Wagua, who had fainted on the ground, and shook his head. I don't know about others, but I have to do my part. He picked up the two halves of the broken blade from the ground and stabbed one half of it into his chest, piercing deep into his heart. The other half pierced through his forehead. It pierced into his head. Then he fell straight down. Looking at Gu Deng, who was gradually dying, Raging Flame slightly saluted. Although you are an enemy, you are worthy of our admiration. Go well. The black demon, who was still struggling at death's door, did not choose to betray its master. Moreover, it died with its master. Its head and body exploded with a boom, flesh and blood splattering everywhere. A man casually grabbed a magical crystal shrouded in thick smoke in his hand. In the tomb, the earthquake dragon, which had not betrayed even after the giant Loli had broken all of its bones, did not betray either. It let out a long, mournful wail and spat out a bloody ball of flesh from its huge mouth. Following that, his body exploded and he died. Compared to the two war beasts who would rather die than betray, the Maha elephant had been running wildly under Yu Yang's attack. The broken secret passage had become its biggest obstacle in its escape. When it lost its footing and fell into a trap, it was unable to break free in an emergency. Yu Yang, who was in the sky, had already raised a humanoid sword formed by the war god Guard Yao, and was ready to slash down. The Maha elephant actually expressed its submission and surrendered to Yu Yang. I'm sorry, although your conditions are good in all aspects, I don't accept it. I can't accept a war beast that will run away or even surrender easily in the face of death. The betrayal and abandoning of your companions just now is already intolerable. If you fight to the death, then I might be able to spare you. However, you surrendered too quickly. You are not what I want. Yu Yang sighed and slashed down with all his might under the fearful gaze of the Maha elephant. This time, it was his powerful battle skill. First slash, earth-splitting slash. Chapter 699. It was really not easy to kill a Maha elephant of Heaven Stage Level 5 that had a special physique that was not afraid of ice and fire, had boundless strength, and had medium intelligence. Even with the help of the war God Guard sisters, Yu Yang still couldn't take them down easily. Little Wen Li, who hadn't come out to help before, came out. She first used the will of the divine beast to suppress the other party. While the Maha elephant was afraid, she summoned the stone element Medusa, the storm mermaid, the thunder naga, and the ice serpent demon, allowing them to participate in this battle of annihilation and gain more combat experience. The storm mermaid blew the storm horn, filling the collapsed secret passage with water. The Maha elephant that fell into the water lost its ability to charge and capture. In the water battle, the stone element Medusa and the others, who displayed even greater power, did not hold back and directly challenged the trapped Maha elephant. So what if he was heaven ranked level 5? If he fell into the water, he would just be a big guy waiting for death. Of course, the Maha elephant knew how to swim, and its swimming skills were not bad. However, compared to war beasts like the stone element Medusa and the storm mermaid, who were naturally adept at water battles, it could not be compared at all. Even the golden tiger shark and the blood python king's family summoned by the stone element Medusa were much better than it. Again and again, Yu Yang used the war god Guard Yao to unleash his sword chi. First slash, earth-splitting slash. Second slash, heaven and earth collapsing. Third slash, overlord of rivers and mountains. Fourth slash, heaven and earth reversing. Fifth slash, gods and ghosts repelling. After that, he didn't hold back like he usually did. Instead, He poured all of his strength into his attacks. As Yu Yang swung his sword, the battle god guard's sister, Yao, became more and more in sync with his mind. The increase in strength became stronger and stronger. It wasn't until Yu Yang felt that he was a little biased that he stopped using the humanoid sword of the elder sister dragon lady and switched to the beautiful humanoid bow of the younger sister dragon lady. At this time, the Maha elephant's strongest weapon, that long nose, had already been slashed down by the sword energy. After Yu Yang exhausted almost all of his innate chi and shot the Maha elephant's head with an extremely cold arrow of ice and lightning, killing it. The war god guard sisters broke through at almost the same time. Their bodies flashed with golden light. The god power inheritance of the lovebirds was more compatible with their bodies and showed a more perfect state. The war god guards who had broken through from innate level 8 to innate level 9 turned into two rays of colorful light and floated into Yu Yang's grimoire world. They had gone into hibernation in order to comprehend the power of the new realm. When they woke up, he believed that the power of their cooperation with Yu Yang would be even stronger. Yu Yang was still a little regretful, because he was still unable to use their bodies to condense the three swords, Gui Song, Shuanghua, and Shaoyan. Moreover, Yu Yang had learned a lot from their first cooperation. If he could do it again, he would be able to do even better. He would definitely be able to use less innate chi and unleash more power. In short, his cooperation with the two of them hadn't reached the level of tacit understanding. If they had truly become one, then the Maha elephant would have been killed by Yu Yang long ago. After killing the Maha elephant of Heaven Stage Level 5, Little Wenli didn't have much of a reaction. Everything about her was good, except that she leveled up very slowly. She wouldn't level up even if she killed a big monster. She would only level up after fighting the final boss battle. Fortunately, Yu Yang was already used to her speed of leveling up. Stone Element Medusa, Storm Mermaid, Thunder Naga, and Ice Serpent Demon had all improved. Not only them, even the Golden Tiger Shark and the Blood Python King's family showed a golden light of advancement. They didn't dare to hope for the Maha elephant's flesh. However, the blue blood that flowed out of it was crazily swallowed by the Golden Tiger Shark along with the water, as if it was an incredible treasure. You didn't put much effort into the battle, yet you still dare to steal it. Yu Yang severely criticized. He put away the Maha elephant's corpse and didn't have time to refine the divine beast's blood from its body. He decided to go back and take a look at the situation first. He didn't want Raging Flame to wait anxiously. That simple-minded fellow must not be deceived by Gu Ding and the others. As soon as he left, the Golden Tiger Shark and the Blood Python King's family, who were pretending to be obedient, began to snatch the blue elephant blood that was difficult to melt in the water. After drinking the blue elephant blood, the Golden Tiger Shark that had just leveled up, its body was slowly changing shape. It became even larger, and a few blue lines appeared on its back. On the other side, the Blood Python King also had the same characteristics on its head and neck. Although there was no way to form a special physique like the Maha elephant, the blue elephant blood also had an extremely small amount of divine beast blood. It had an extremely good effect on the physique of the Golden Tiger Shark and the Blood Python King. The giant Loli was waiting for Yu Yang's return in the ruins of the tomb. "Big brother, what is this?" She used 2 fingers to pick up a strange blood-colored ball of flesh. It's an egg that the earthquake dragon nurtured with its life. It gave up everything and poured all of its life energy into this egg. This isn't meat. Inside the meat membrane, there's an egg. Yu Yang put away the huge blood-colored ball of flesh and looked at the earthquake dragon's corpse. Instead of using the corpse as a war beast's meat as usual, he ignited the nirvana flame and burned all the remains of the earthquake dragon's corpse. After purification, the remaining small amount of pure energy was also gently injected into the blood-colored ball of flesh. Immediately, the blood-colored ball of flesh seemed to have a heartbeat and began to tremble slightly. After a while, it seemed to gradually calm down. Yu Yang looked at the giant Loli and his heart stirred. "When we get back, Big Brother will help you level up to the 4th level of Heaven Stage. You're almost able to break through, but if Big Brother helps, it might be very painful. Don't be afraid. I'm not afraid of pain at all. I definitely won't cry. When the giant Loli heard this, she was overjoyed. She couldn't hide her joy and laughed out loud. In the unit world full of yellow sand, seeing that Yu Yang had returned, Raging Flame scratched her hair in embarrassment. He committed suicide before he could do it well. Afraid that he would be angry, she added, I have already advised him, but he didn't listen. Yu Yang deliberately put on a straight face and pretended to be very serious, which made Raging Flame even more afraid. In fact, he was secretly happy. Seeing this wild and untamable female giant's uneasy appearance, he felt a sense of accomplishment. The transformation had made some progress, but it was not yet successful. He still had to work hard. The bovine bat's magic crystal, the nighthawk's magic crystal, the crazy dancing grass's crazy heart, and the black demon's smoke demon heart were all handed over one by one. In order to reward everyone's performance, Yu Yang immediately distributed the spoils of war. The bovine bat's magic crystal was given to the spirit of heaven fire, and the nighthawk's magic crystal was given to the reaper mantis. Yu Yang did not distribute the crazy heart and the smoke demon heart. The bloody queen red, man, and IKA also had enough wisdom. They naturally smiled and refused Yu Yang's childlike rewards. They understood that if they needed it the most, no matter what it was, he would give it to them. He didn't care about the spoils of war in front of him. Raging Flame dragged back the dying Wagwa. Yu Yang decided to freeze him first and find a time to save him. First, it was about intelligence. He had to squeeze out valuable information from Wagwa to find out the enemy's movements and goals. Second, there were still a few powerful war beasts on Wagwa, not to mention the Heaven Stage Level 3 6-armed giant demon. Even the Heaven Stage Level 1 Earth Demon Bear, Rock Giant, Quasi-Heaven Stage Human Face Scorpion Lion, and Flying Stone Demon were not bad. Although that Thunder Toad was ugly, it was still useful. In any case, sooner or later, Wagwa would be used as fertilizer or dog food. It would be a waste if he didn't squeeze out his remaining value. If not for this thought, Yu Yang would have killed him long ago. Yu Yang was a little surprised when he saw the steel-toothed sand spider turn into a golden corpse. Ah, it's the scorpion in the ground. That Gu Deng's leg is the same. Raging Flame explained the situation to Yu Yang. She also didn't understand why the star scorpion would force out the steel-toothed sand spider and sneak attack Gu Deng. However, the situation was like that. Not a bad ability, and the toxicity is not bad. Yu Yang looked at Gu Deng's right leg that had turned into a golden foot after being cut off. He put both the steel-toothed sand spider and the golden foot into his storage ring. Even the golden liquid mutated blood on the ground was stored in a small bottle, which made Raging Flame dizzy. No wonder this brat had so many treasures. She had never seen someone collect treasures as crazily as him. Not to mention treasures, he didn't even let go of the slightest bit of useful things. Question mark. The spirit of heaven fire was inquiring about Yu Yang's intentions. Should she force the star scorpion out of the ground? She had no sense of right and wrong. As long as it was a hostile creature, she wouldn't mind killing them all. In the world of the spirit of heaven fire, other than her master, Yu Yang, there were only two things in the world. One was energy that could be absorbed, and the other was not. Yu Yang waved his hand. Using force to conquer an intelligent creature was the most clumsy method. Even if it was conquered, the result would be the same as when Wagwa conquered the star scorpion. What Yu Yang wanted to use was a better method. Of course, if conquering by force was effective, Yu Yang wouldn't mind doing so. The problem was that the star scorpion's current situation was a little special. It had already been forced by Wagwa once. Using brute force again would definitely not work. If it had high intelligence, Yu Yang could negotiate with the other party, understand with righteousness, and move with emotion. Yu Yang immediately started bluffing. If he didn't bluff his opponent until he became a cripple, then he wouldn't be considered as having the ability to do so. If it was a war beast with intermediate intelligence or below, then this move wouldn't work because the other party didn't know how to speak and didn't have enough intelligence to think too deeply. Yu Yang could only use the method of coaxing a child. First, he would cater to its liking, lure it with benefits, and take out something that the other party was interested in to prove that he had a great future. Star Scorpion, what did it like the most? Let alone Yu Yang. Anyone would be able to answer this question without even thinking. What war beast liked the most was to evolve and improve. This was what all war beasts liked the most. There was no war beast that didn't like to advance, and there was no war beast that didn't like to increase its strength. Yu Yang drew a huge Heaven Realm rune circle on the surface of the sand. After some thought, he placed the gold-ranked treasure scorpion gloves he obtained from the Scorpion Palace in the center of the rune circle. Then, he quietly waited for the star scorpion to appear. Could this work too? Raging Flame had some doubts in her heart, but she didn't dare to deny Yu Yang's method. A minute later, the star scorpion quietly emerged from the edge of the Heaven Realm rune circle with a small tail. Seeing that no one was coming to catch it, it slowly floated up. It looked at the scorpion gloves in the Heaven Realm rune circle and was obviously tempted. However, it didn't immediately crawl over. Instead, it cautiously turned its head and looked at Yu Yang. Yu Yang stood still, and it didn't move either. When Yu Yang took a step forward, it immediately sank into the sand. When Yu Yang stopped, it slowly floated up again. After repeating this many times and confirming that Yu Yang had no intention of attacking, it allowed Yu Yang to approach. However, when it was 100 meters away, it kept retreating, unwilling to let Yu Yang get too close. I won't say any nonsense. If you can understand what I mean, then come with me. I have a way to turn you into the strongest star scorpion in the world. Do you see my War God Guard? Isn't the human divine weapon very powerful? I can turn you into a beast-shaped divine weapon, and also an earth divine weapon. Yu Yang was even better at fooling people than Uncle Zhao in the Spring Festival Gala. When Raging Flame heard his words, she wondered if she had made a mistake with him right now. She was sweating profusely. Fortunately, Yu Yang didn't use the kind of crazy multi-level marketing to tire people's hearts. He still had a lot of character. He directly made it clear that it was up to the other party whether he wanted to follow or not. Yu Yang picked up the scorpion gloves, brought on Man and the others, and turned to leave. The star scorpion had a trace of hesitation. However, seeing Yu Yang walk away, it quickly chased after him. Yu Yang turned around, and it immediately stopped. When he turned around and left, it quickly chased after him. Perhaps, in its heart, it hadn't made a decision yet, but at least it already knew that this was a good opportunity that couldn't be easily missed. Chapter 700. The Periphery of the Gods' Ruins. The guiding temple was actually an entrance to the gods' ruins, similar to the small garden in front of the heaven stairway. There were many stories recorded with various runes here. Some of them were from ancient times and could no longer be investigated. Some were added by later generations, but they were all records from tens of thousands of years ago or even hundreds of thousands of years ago. There were very few records from 10,000 years ago. On the giant wall behind a collapsed statue, there was a record from 6,000 years ago. It was a record of the prison emperor's experience after he came here to explore. What shocked Yu Yang the most was that Queen Vivian didn't write in front of the prison emperor's record that she would come to explore and inherit the gods' ruins after conquering the Heaven Realm. But behind the prison emperor's record, there was a paragraph of fine and delicate runes. These runes gave Yu Yang a shocking sense of familiarity, making him think of a person in an instant. The pitiful guy's mother. She mentioned that in order to obtain the guidance of the guiding temple and find the real way to enter the gods' ruins, one must use a pure and flawless body to carry the divine will of the god of wisdom envoy. The ancient god of wisdom was a pure virgin goddess. All descendants who wanted to inherit her divine power had to be virgins. Even her god of wisdom envoy, the inheritor of divine will, only chose to be a virgin. Every time an explorer entered the guiding temple and passed the test, one person could obtain the qualification to inherit the guidance of the god of wisdom envoy. Without inheriting the guidance of divine will, it was impossible to explore the true interior of the god's ruins. That was equivalent to wanting to enter the treasure house without the key and could only stare. In addition to obtaining the guidance, the pitiful guy's mother also used different runes to record a lot of information about the interior of the god's ruins. Almost everything that she felt that the future generations needed to pay attention to, she would record it down, reminding the future generations to pay attention to the restrictions of the laws, the conditions for the runes, and so on. If a small number of heaven runes could still be recognized by people, then the records she used ancient runes were mysterious and unfathomable. Even Yu Yang had a hard time reading them. If it wasn't for her knowledge inheritance and the knowledge of the ancient rune restriction array in the cloud top lake in the abyss of despair, Yu Yang wouldn't have been able to recognize the records left behind by the pitiful guy's mother. The pitiful guy's mother had recorded a lot of information in the temple. However, if one did not understand the heaven runes, then it would be a waste of time. Even if one understood the heaven runes, but did not understand the ancient runes, they would only be able to see a small part of it. I'll make a copy of it first. Then I'll go back and study it with Wu Hin and Wu Xia. Yu Yang sighed slightly. It seemed that the secret of the god's ruins was not something he could explore right now, because even the prison emperor was deterred. Even Queen Vivian Li, who had the power of the divine supreme elder and claimed to conquer the heaven realm, was unable to find out the truth inside. However, the pitiful guy's mother could enter the god's ruins. This is too inconceivable. What made Yu Yang feel the most inconceivable was that if only virgins could obtain the inheritance of the wisdom god's envoy's guidance, then wouldn't the pitiful guy's mother, who entered the god's ruins alone, have to fulfill this condition? But what made people dizzy was, if she was a virgin, where did the pitiful guy come from? Yu Yang wanted to completely deny and overturn this idea, but it was actually not possible. This was because Yu Yang had a feeling that he didn't dare to doubt. That fourth mother, who had 2 children, Bing Er and Shuang Er, was also a virgin. Yu Yang's rationality didn't think that it was possible, but the problem was that his intuition was sometimes more accurate than his rationality. Taking 10,000 steps back, if it was true, then where did Bing Er and Shuang Er come from? There was an extremely mysterious seal in their bodies, which should be the work of the pitiful guy's mother. Even Yu Yang's heaven eyes divine vision could not see through it. What exactly did that mean? Was the pitiful guy like Bing Er and Shuang Er? Fourth mother, who looked like an ordinary person, what kind of secret was hidden in her body? What relationship did she have with the people of Heaven's Stairway and 100 Flowers and Butterfly Valley? Many questions made Yu Yang dizzy. Now, the ancient demon king had appeared. He had seized a very important body and caused a lot of things. In the future, the truth of his self-disclosure would definitely be a big threat. Originally, it gave Yu Yang a headache, but Fourth Mother didn't seem to care at all. Her attitude made Yu Yang surprised. Could she really not care? Fourth Mother didn't care. Night Empress and Ji Zun also ignored this. It seemed that they all knew the truth long ago, but outsiders didn't know. What's wrong with you? The female flame giant saw that Yu Yang looked at the rune record with a troubled expression. She asked curiously, "What's written on it?" "Nothing. The conditions to enter are written on it. We don't have the ability to explore for the time being. Let's go back first." Yu Yang recovered from his thoughts and immediately put aside the distracting thoughts in his heart. If he couldn't understand something, then he wouldn't think about it for now. The truth would slowly be revealed as his ability increased in the future. Moreover, even if he knew the truth now, he probably wouldn't believe it because he hadn't reached that level yet. For example, how did the pitiful guy's mother enter the god's ruins? Even if she told him the method, no one would be able to enter. The most obvious example was that the Black Hell King had found the divine grimoire very early on, but he had never been able to pass through the golden barrier. What about that scorpion? Raging Flame saw that the star scorpion had been following them, but kept its distance. Let it follow. Yu Yang smiled. With the help of the Bloody Queen Red and Aman, he began to copy the rune record that guided the Divine Palace's outer hall. The inner hall was a place to test. If one didn't meet the qualifications, they definitely wouldn't be able to pass the test. Yu Yang wasn't in a hurry. He hoped that his strength would reach a higher level before he could explore again. At the very least, he had to clarify the records of these predecessors. With these, Sickly Beauty and Shui Wuxia would probably have to put in a lot of effort to study it. Of course, because of the Night Empress, Yu Yang still had the use of predecessors for reference. Because the Night Empress and Jizun must have entered the God's ruins before, but they couldn't enter the inner core area of the God's ruins like the pitiful guy's mother. After staying for a day, Yu Yang and Captain Raging Flame returned to the Rainbow Castle in the small garden. Sickly Beauty was the happiest about the rune rubbing that Yu Yang had brought back. Studying the history and mysterious runes of the ancient times was her greatest hobby. Yu couldn't help with these profound rune rubbing, but the City Lord of Fallen Flowers and Shui Wuxia had some research. However, they weren't here, so Sickly Beauty could only sort out by herself. The Star Scorpion followed back. Out of caution, it didn't take the initiative to contract. Yu Yang wasn't in a hurry, so he decided to cool it down first. The heavily injured Wugua wasn't in a hurry to interrogate him. Yu Yang and little Wenli worked together. One used the power of the law that she had slightly mastered, and the other used the will of the divine beast to free the war beasts in Wugua's body that had already reached its limit. If it wasn't for this situation, it would have been difficult to deprive them. However, the master of Wugua was severely injured and on the verge of death. Under the dual pressure of Yu Yang's power of the law and little Wen Li's will of the divine beast, these weak war beasts were deprived of their own bodies. They didn't have much resistance. Even the strongest six-armed giant demon had betrayed Wugua at the moment of destruction. Right now, Wugua hadn't woken up yet. When he woke up and found that he had lost all his war beasts, he would probably cry to death. At that time, it would be the best time to pry open Wugua's mouth and obtain information about the ancient Demon King and the Heaven Realm mercenaries. The corpse of the Maha treasure elephant and many spoils of war were too late to deal with. Yu Yang hadn't gone to the southern Heaven Realm for a few days, afraid that the situation would change. He hurriedly used the three-realm compass to return to Black Wind City. Almost all of Black Wind City's territories have been turned into mud. Of the 100 subordinate towns, dozens were in a state of destruction. However, the main city area of Black Wind City was strangely intact. This was because Sky Execution and the others didn't have any intention of flattening Black Wind City. Instead, they used this as an arena to challenge their opponents from the Southern Heaven Realm. In the few days that Yu Yang was away, many battles had broken out between the two sides, and both sides had their own victories and losses. Of course, these battles were all small skirmishes. The real battle was still half a month away. At that time, not only would the Emerald Lord appear, but the Lionheart King would also watch the battle from afar. If he saw that Yu Yang's side wasn't strong enough, he would have a high chance of making a move. In the early stages of the cross-border war, both sides maintained a tacit understanding. Neither side fought to the death to prevent the situation from getting out of control. Among them, Sky Execution and the others had attacked too heavily a few times. Their actions of killing a Heaven Stage cultivator did not arouse the suspicions of the master of Black Wind City, Old Demon Wei, and Bai Song. They believed that it was done by the rebel army, framing the Heaven Stage experts of the Western Heaven Realm. This was because a few Heaven Stage experts of the rebel army, and that Zhu Hu, who would never compromise with the Black Wind, had already secretly killed 3 Heaven Stage reinforcements sent by the other city lords, intending to make this pool of muddy water even more chaotic. The master of Black Wind City was very mad at the actions of these rebel army, but he had no way of punishing them. Other than being secretive enough, the rebel army also had decent strength. Most importantly, the master of Black Wind City was currently having a headache over the cross-border war, so he had no time to deal with the rebel army. How are you progressing? Yu Yang saw that there was nothing else to do, so he decided to go back and continue studying his rune inscription. At the same time, he would also raise the Giant Lowly of Heaven Stage Level 3 to Heaven Stage Level 4. The Giant Lowly, she was one of the main forces of the official war later. The stronger she was, the more headaches the other party would have. Yi Kong, Fatty Hai, and the others were all riddled with wounds. With Old Man Nan Gong watching them cultivate, There was no danger of death, but injuries were inevitable. The Southern Heaven Realm was not like Tong Tian Tower. Any random magical beast could put their lives in danger. Yi Kong, Fatty Hai, and the others had experienced countless battles of life and death, so they had matured a lot. Between their brows was a killing intent that had returned from 100 battles, washing away their previous immaturity. They were like unsheathed swords, and just by standing there, they gave off a sharp and imposing aura. To Yu Yang, their killing intent naturally did not have any effect, but if it was a martial artist of Tong Tian Tower, even if it was a quasi-heaven stage, they would still feel terrified just by looking at it. Not bad. In the past few days, everyone has improved to varying degrees. Yi Kong smiled and said, "However, the ones who reap the most are not us, but the two brothers, Li Xie and Li Ge. The day before yesterday, we besieged an Earth rank level 9 Griffin King. Who would have thought that when the battle was at its most intense, a Griffin Queen would fly back, almost wiping us all out? Everyone gave it their all, and in the end, their guardian knights rushed up to hug the Griffin King and Griffin Queen and self-destructed. In the end, a special mutation that we could not even imagine happened. Their guardian knights became Griffin Knights. One of their mounts merged with the Griffin King, and the other merged with the Griffin Queen. They were originally bronze-ranked, but now they have evolved into silver-ranked. Oh, this is a good thing." Yu Yang clapped his hands in praise. He used his divine vision to look at the Griffin Knights that the Li brothers summoned, and found that their potential had also increased. Becoming a Griffin Knight is nothing. It still looks so ugly. When my rhinoceros and hippopotamus mutate, they will definitely become great beauties. Fatty Hai started to fantasize. The wind breath seabird hit his head with a wind blade. Firstly, it was to punish his lust. Secondly, it was annoyed that he had forgotten to mention himself. When everyone saw this, they laughed out loud. They all felt that the wind breath seabird was more humane and smarter than before. It was hard to say for Fatty Hai's diamond rhinoceros, hippopotamus, and gold mammoth, but whether this wine breath seabird would evolve into a human form in the future, everyone had a slight possibility. After all, it was too intelligent and had a human nature. There was definitely hope for it to advance into a holy beast. Whether it could be cultivated or not was only a matter of time. Chapter 701. Rainbow Castle. Giant Loli rarely cultivated. Most of the time, she was sleeping soundly. Occasionally, she would get up and stretch her muscles and bones. If she practiced diligently every day, then there would be no place for her to toss and turn, because even a mountain would collapse. Moreover, to be precise, although she was a 200-meter-tall giant, she was actually a flat-chested Loli. Her personality was just a little more mature than Yushuang, but she was naturally good at fighting. In the battle with Yu Yang, although she had always been at Heaven Stage Level 3, it had not changed. But in fact, it had been upgraded several times. It was either the reawakening of power, the better compatibility between the Titan armor and the body, or the understanding of combat skills. Her advancement also belonged to the type of slow but comprehensive improvement. Yu Yang saw that she was still a step away from Heaven Stage Level 4, so he decided to help her and let her ascend earlier. In the decisive battle half a month later, she would become a strong help. Helping the giant Loli to improve was not an easy task. Just using the innate chi to circulate around her body was enough to choke her. The ancient Titan was too big, not to mention that giant Loli was the inheritor of the ancient Titan's royal bloodline, so her body was even bigger. However, Yu Yang still had a way. He called out the Qilin girl Bingyin, who was bathing in the Nirvana flame pillar to evolve, and let her use the immortal technique that Yu Yang did not know, but it could miniaturize multiple targets to shrink the giant Loli by 10 times, turning her into a 20-meter-tall female giant. I just fell asleep with great difficulty, and now I have to get up and do hard work for you. What a bitter life. Qilin girl Bingyin yawned cutely, and urged Yu Yang to hurry up while shrinking the giant Loli. Can you make me bigger again? Can I become 1,000 meters tall? Giant Loli blinked her eyes and asked. In theory, it's possible. Chilling girl being expressed this possibility. Well, when I find a mountain, you can make me taller than the mountain. Giant Loli was very happy to hear this. Why? Chilling girl and Yu Yang were puzzled. Mom said that if I could grow taller than a mountain, then I'll be a real adult. Although I haven't grown up yet, I really want to know what I'll look like when I grow taller than a mountain. If the dwarves were to hear the giant Loli's words, they would probably burst into tears. When Yu Yang and the Chilling girl heard this, they were speechless. 200 meters tall was not enough. It had to be taller than a mountain. Could it be that the height of the ancient Titan royal clan was 1,000 meters tall? Yu Yang exhausted all of his innate chi to clear the meridians of the giant Loli. Moreover, all of them were connected. Adapting to local conditions, he created a new type of spiral meridians. The ancient Titan's body had this kind of special rotating meridian, but it had not been connected, nor had it truly formed. Yu Yang boldly created it in the giant Loli's body. The template was the body that the barbarian Cow Shadow, a man, and the others had repeatedly modified by Yu Yang. In any case, the giant Loli was strong enough, so no matter what he did, nothing would happen. It would just be slightly painful. Helping an ancient Titan to open the meridians was actually easier than helping a human. The only hard part was the consumption of innate chi. The total amount needed was too much. Yu Yang, who had dropped 10 drops of God's dew into his mouth, barely completed this great project. This time, let's stop here. Next time, I'll do a reverse spiral. Yu Yang was too tired. Otherwise, he would have tried to connect the main and reverse spiral meridians to the body of an ancient Titan to see what kind of effect it would have. After the innate chi cleared the meridians, Yu Yang used the nirvana flame to refine her body. The Chilling girl being Yin, who had been maintaining the mini-shrinking immortal technique, was also exhausted. When she saw that she could stop, she quickly ran away. No matter how Yu Yang called her, she slipped back to sleep without hesitation and ignored him. "Brother, are you tired?" Although the giant Loli was eager to improve, she was a little apologetic. "Brother, why don't you take a rest? It's okay to wait for a few days. It's nothing." Yu Yang knew that he had to do it in one go. He summoned the nirvana flame in the form of the fire phoenix and pierced through the giant Loli's body, from the outside to the inside, and from the inside to the outside. The repeated purification allowed the giant Loli to cleanse her marrows and meridians amidst the pain of her burning body. She was reborn. Captain Raging Flames couldn't help but admire the giant Loli for being able to grit her teeth and endure such pain. Because before this, she had also let Yu Yang use the nirvana flame to purify her body when she was infected with the dragon plague. Moreover, that kind of purification was far inferior to the level of the fire phoenix in front of her, which was constantly moving through her body, burning inside and out. For what the giant Loli could endure, Raging Flames didn't dare to say that she could endure. Even if she had the bloodline inheritance of an ancient dragon, she couldn't compare to a real ancient Titan. In the end, the giant Loli couldn't help but bend down. However, she endured it bitterly and didn't want to fall to the ground. She supported herself on the ground with her hands. She persevered. The nirvana flame phoenix soared into the sky, then swooped down and pierced in her body, forming a pillar of nirvana flame that rose into the sky. The giant Loli, who was bathed in the nirvana flame pillar, stood up with a rumbling sound and roared towards the sky for a long time. Her entire body shone with a golden light, illuminating the world, as if a god had descended. If not for Yu Yang's timely control of the surrounding spatial energy, Rainbow Castle would probably have been turned into dust by the strong shock wave produced by her leveling up to the 4th level of Heaven Stage. Truly amazing. The female guardian warriors who had been living with the giant Loli since they came out of the ancient arena were all standing behind Yu Yang to watch. The super cute dog beauty was even clapping her hands and cheering. "Do you want to try too?" Yu Yang deliberately teased her. "No, we are healers. We don't need to become very strong." The dog beauty wagged her tail gently and extended her small hand towards Yu Yang. "Didn't you say that you would reward me with a treasure last time? If you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten. Yu Yang threw her a monocle. What treasure is this? The dog Beauty asked happily. It's a very powerful treasure. Its full name is Hardened Corium Gold Dog Eye. Wearing it, your eyes will never be harmed by foreign objects. It's a very powerful treasure, and not an ordinary person can obtain it. Note, in the whole world, only you have it. It's a unique treasure, Yu Yang replied seriously. The group of female guardian warriors who had lifted the curse and had not returned to the ancient arena all fainted when they heard this. Is this really a good thing? The dog Beauty felt that this thing was useless, but she couldn't bear to throw it away. A unique treasure was something she couldn't refuse. Of course, it's 100% treasure. Only Yu Yang would study the secret technique of war dolls to create such a boring thing. Sweat. Raging Flame made a sweating gesture towards Yu Yang's act of coaxing a child. This was naturally because of Yu Yang's influence. If it was in the past, she would never have expressed herself like this. The only one present who worshipped Yu Yang was the little panda girl, Nyo. The giant Lowly, who had successfully advanced to Heaven Stage Level 4, waited for the Nirvana flame to turn into a fire phoenix and return to Yu Yang's body. She laughed happily. After laughing for a long time, she leaned down and impatiently asked Yu Yang to fight. Big brother, you said you want to beat that bad guy. I'll go beat him down immediately. Right now, my strength feels like it's going to explode in my body, and I won't be afraid of any enemies in the future. Haha, Big Brother's method is indeed the best. Although it's a little painful, it'll be over soon. Now, hurry up and find an enemy for me to fight. It's best to find a stronger one. Yu Yang was sweating profusely. Fortunately, Raging Flame, who volunteered to be his sparring partner, solved the problem of Yu Yang. In order to prevent Rainbow Castle from being destroyed by their fight, Yu Yang brought them to the outskirts of Black Wind City in the Southern Heaven Realm. In any case, no matter how they fought in the Southern Heaven Realm, they wouldn't feel any heartache. This battle had caused a great disaster outside Black Wind City in the Southern Heaven Realm. Even Sky Execution, Dragon Emperor, and the others who had come to watch the battle were dumbfounded. What would happen if the Heaven Stage Level 4 Ancient Titan and the Heaven Stage Level 5 Raging Flame fought? It wasn't enough to describe it as an earth-shattering event. After they erupted with their strength, they collided with each other, creating shockwaves that were unimaginably terrifying. Previously, in the tomb room outside the god's ruins, they couldn't display their true power. But in the Southern Heaven Realm, in an open space, once they started fighting, everything within a radius of tens of kilometers would be turned into ruins. The shockwave was like a hurricane, and even the trees 30 kilometers away were affected. In the central area of 10 kilometers, whether it was mountains, hills, rocks, trees, or everything else, they were all smashed into pieces by the two of them. The huge crater after the collision was even deeper than the crater created by a meteor. The earthquake it caused was terrifying, and the mud and dust flew up, covering the sky and covering the sun. Black Wind, by Song, and Old Demon Wei, who were secretly discussing in Black Wind City, were all panic-stricken when they sensed this kind of battle. They judged that the experts of Tong Tian Sect, Long Tong Sect, and Demonic Palace had arrived and were fighting with unknown Heaven Stage experts. That kind of head-on collision was not something an ordinary Heaven Stage expert could achieve. Even Old Demon Wei, who was at the 5th level of Heaven Stage, didn't have such confidence. He wasn't a powerhouse of Heaven Stage at all. If he were to be hit by such power, he would have been defeated long ago. And the battle lasted for 3 hours and still didn't stop. Black Wind, by Song, and Old Demon Wei were simply restless. Of course, they didn't know that Raging Flame, who was fighting with the giant Lowly, had already given up in exhaustion. The one who replaced her in battle was Aman, who was blessed with the giant shadow. If it wasn't for the giant shadow, Raging Flame wouldn't have been able to fight against the giant Lowly. Aman possessed the power of Titan and the heart of the earth. She was a goddess of war who would never tire. As a sparring partner for the giant Lowly, she was the most qualified. Thus, the battle that made Black Wind and the others' hearts jump continued. It wasn't until a day and a night later that the giant Lowly was exhausted that the battle officially ended. When Yu Yang and the others left, the master of Black Wind City, by song, and old demon Wei couldn't wait to observe the battlefield. When they saw it, their expressions all changed. Chapter 702, Door of Life and Death. On the 10th floor of Tong Tian Tower, in the broken passage to Heaven Realm, there is a special sealed unit world called the Door of Life and Death. Yu Yang had heard Elder Ningong mention it a long time ago, as well as Shui Wuxia, Princess Sisai, and the others. This special sealed space was said to be a trial point created by a powerhouse in ancient times using the laws of the individual world. In ancient times, the martial artists of Skysplit Tower had to be able to stay inside for an hour before they had the qualifications to enter the Heaven Realm. Of course, this convention was gradually forgotten because of the Great War of Heaven Realm 6,000 years ago. The spatial passageway of the path to heaven had collapsed, and the Heaven Realm and Tong Tian Tower had lost direct contact. Training in the Door of Life and Death had little to do with a person's level or strength. It was more related to spirit and willpower. It was said that even the strong prison emperor could not stay inside for a full day. Scarlet Emperor, Black Hell King, and the others could only stay inside for less than an hour. Shun Tian, Black Prince, Thousand Goblin Sect Leader, and the others could only stay for 5 minutes. This is an illusory and real world. If you can't maintain your heart, then you won't even be able to stay inside for a minute. There's a saying in the Door of Life and Death: one step forward is equivalent to surpassing oneself. When the Night Empress came, she asked Yu Yang to temporarily put down his research on the runes of the Guiding Divine Hall. He did not rush to refine the blood of the Maha Elephant, and instead followed her to the Door of Life and Death on the 10th floor of Tong Tian Tower to train. Little guy, although your improvement is not bad and your cultivation speed is very fast, didn't you realize that your domain power has not reached the true effect of domain power? Come, after experiencing the Door of Life and Death, I believe you will have a brand new, true domain. True domain? When Yu Yang heard this, his heart moved. Nirvana Flame, World Exterminating Wheel, Eternal Wheel, Star Explosion, Black Hole Devouring. Yu Yang had many unique domain power. Some of these domain power could be completely controlled, some could not be used to their full power, and some were passive existences that could not be controlled. Most importantly, most of the other people's domain power had a relatively large range, in the shape of a semicircle or a sphere, producing a certain effect within the range. His domain power was different and had different forms. Furthermore, some of them could be changed at will. For example, the Nirvana Flame. It could be released at will and changed according to Yu Yang's will. Other people's domains could not be changed, or they could only be changed within certain rules. In fact, once the owner moved out of the domain's range, the effects of the domain would disappear. Only Yu Yang's domain was so unique. At first, he thought that it was because he hadn't fully grasped it. Now that he heard what the Night Empress said, he reflected on it and felt that his domain power was indeed a little abnormal. Not fully grasping it was one of the reasons. Truly comprehending it completely was also one of the reasons. If Nirvana's Flame, World Exterminating Wheel, and Eternal Wheel were not Yu Yang's true domain of power, then what was his domain of power? Your situation is a little special. You have many domains, but let me put it this way. The various domains you have now are not your main domains. They're just byproducts of your special physique. No one else has this. Because of the birth of these domains, you have neglected your own main domain. If you have not formed your main domain before you have fully grasped the Sovereign's heart and the power of the ancient code, it may affect your future improvement in battles. So, after thinking about it, I think it's better to remind you not to be busy with other things first. Focus on comprehending this main domain. With this, the power of the ancient code that you control in the future will also have the best growth point. The Night Empress's words made Yu Yang feel enlightened. It was as if a window in his heart had been opened. Thinking about it, it's really like that. Yu Yang was overjoyed. Wuxia and Qian Qian had a good harvest at the door of life and death. Right now, Inan and Bing'er are also working hard to cultivate. The Night Empress brought Yu Yang to the door of life and death on the 10th floor of Tong Tian Tower. Along the way, she introduced him to the various tests of the door of life and death. The teleportation entrance of the door of life and death was really a door. This door was incomparably huge. On one side of the door pillar, there was a demon being judged heavily, carrying a huge rock edge. On the other side of the door pillar, there was a laurel angel that was as white as jade. Her eyebrows were lowered, as if she was silently moving forward. Two cute little angels easily supported the huge rock edge of the door, preventing the rock from pressing down on the shoulders of the female angel wearing a laurel crown. At the top of the door, a huge dragon poked its head out and opened its mouth to spit out dragon breath. Below its mouth, there was a huge name written in heaven runes, Door of Life and Death. Passing through the golden energy vortex, Yu Yang, Raging Flame, Drunken Cat, and the others were teleported to the top of a stone altar. The eternal golden portal on the altar was the exit. The 6 steps in front of him led to the endless void, which was the real gate of life and death. Taking a step forward is equivalent to surpassing oneself. The Night Empress's heavenly voice rang out and asked, "Which of you will go first?" Remember, everything is an illusory existence, but if you think it is real, then it will become real. "I'll go first." Raging Flame was more impatient. She rushed ahead of Yu Yang and strode towards the steps, towards the endless door of life and death in the void. Not to mention that it was fake. Even if it was real, she believed that with her strength of Heaven Stage Level 5, she could withstand any test. This was only the basic standard for martial artists of Tong Tian Tower to enter the Heaven Realm in order to train. There was no reason why she couldn't do it. Raging Flame, who was secretly vigilant, took a step forward and stepped into the wonderful world of void that could carry everything. When her right foot stepped down and her left leg was still on the stairs, a figure flashed in front of her. A red-haired, middle-aged martial artist of Heaven Stage Level 1 ran over, bathed in blood. When he saw Raging Flame, he immediately stretched out his hand and shouted, "Daughter, save me." Raging Flame's eyes instantly widened into a circle, and her entire body trembled. "Father, it was actually Father." 2 shadows flashed behind Raging Flame's father. In front of Raging Flame, they brandished their sabers and axes and brutally killed Raging Flame's father. No! Raging Flame's mind was in chaos, and her anger exploded. She couldn't just watch as her respected father was killed. At this moment, everything that the Night Empress had said completely collapsed. How could such a real scene be fake? That was definitely her father. It was precisely because of her hesitation that he was killed on the spot by a powerful enemy. Raging Flame was filled with regret and anger. She erupted with the terrifying power of Heaven Stage Level 5 and punched towards the 2 enemies who had killed her father. 2 powerful enemies were sent flying on the spot. However, the clown flashed behind Raging Flame. Raging Flame didn't have time to dodge and was hit in the back of the head by the clown's quick leg. Just as Raging Flames endured the sneak attack and reached out to grab the clown, preparing to break his bones, the Lionheart King's fist, faster than light, had already heavily smashed into Raging Flame's face, easily knocking her down to the ground at the 5th level of Heaven Stage. Unable to bear the pain, Captain Raging Flame fell to the side of her father's corpse. She wanted to reach out and pick up her father's head from the pool of blood, but the clown stomped on it. No. Raging Flame struggled to stand up and unleashed her greatest strength, preparing to perish together with the other party. Even if she died here, she absolutely wouldn't allow the clown who had desecrated her father's corpse to live. Just as she pounced towards the clown, she felt a pain on her back. The corpse that had already been beheaded had actually slashed at her body. This was impossible. How could her father attack her? And he was clearly dead. Even his head had been chopped off, and it had been stomped on by the clown. Are you looking for this? The headless corpse suddenly held up a bloody head that had died with grievances. The mouth of the head spoke strangely. Impossible. Raging Flame's mind almost collapsed when she suddenly felt a pulling force. When she was dragged back to the altar steps by the pulling force, she realized that it was Yu Yang who had reached out to pull her back. When he retracted his right leg that was stepping on the void, the clown, the Lionheart King, her father's corpse, and the two assailants had all disappeared without a trace, as if they had never existed. However, when Raging Flame touched her mouth, she discovered that it was a fact that she had been beaten to the point of vomiting blood by the Lionheart King. Even the sword that had cut off her father's corpse had a bloodstain on her back. His body had actually been injured by the illusion. The only difference was that compared to the illusion just now, the injury seemed to be slightly lighter. The heavenly voice of the Night Empress rang out again. You have forgotten everything that I have said. You have mistakenly believed that the weakness of your heart is a fact. In the end, the illusion became real. You must deny all of this in order to truly pass it. Yes, Raging Flame no longer dared to underestimate Tong Tian Tower's trial, especially when she saw the timer in Drunken Cat's hand. It hadn't even been a minute yet, and she felt even more ashamed. She couldn't even hold on for a minute. Her standard was to hold on for an hour. Although she possessed the power of Heaven Stage Level 5, her mental defense was too weak. Her will was even more vulnerable in the face of this mental weakness. Yu Yang smiled at her. In fact, on the first floor of Tong Tian Tower, there were also two palaces that were similar to this kind of test. The Gemini Palace and the Virgo Palace. These two palaces were not places that ordinary people could pass. The Gemini Palace was to challenge the limits of one's soul. The Virgo Palace was even more terrifying. Even the most hidden weakness in one's heart could be completely revealed and pointed directly at one's heart. If Yu Yang didn't have the help of Shui Wuxia and the others, he believed that it would be difficult for him to break through the most difficult Virgo Palace in history. The only Yu Yang who had perfectly passed the 12 zodiac palaces, once again stepped into this door of life and death, had a different feeling from Raging Flame. He stepped on top of void. Countless powerful enemies appeared. The previous Marquis of Zijin, the later Shun Tian, the Black Prince, the Thousand Goblins sect leader, the Black Hell King, the Thousand Goblins King, the Clown, the Lionheart King, the Scarlet Emperor, and even the Ancient Demon King. No matter what kind of attack they made, Yu Yang turned a blind eye. When these people grabbed Yi Kong, Fatty Hai, Shui Tam Lang, and the others and forcefully tore them apart and devoured them, Yu Yang also had a smile on his face, completely unmoved. Yu Bing and Yu Shuang ran towards Yu Yang, with countless bad guys chasing after them. They wailed for their brother to save their lives, just like how Raging Flame saw her father being chased by a strong enemy. Yu Yang's expression finally changed, and he stretched out his hand. Raging Flame cried out in her heart. This was an illusion. As long as his heart was moved, he would fall into an illusion just like how he was just now. My sister can't be as cowardly as you guys. Before Yu Yang could finish his words, Yu Bing and Yu Shuang suddenly turned into giants. They were as big as a giant lowly, and with 2 feet, they trampled on the bad guys who were chasing after them. He can actually control illusions? Raging Flame was dumbstruck. Wasn't this guy's willpower too terrifying? I hate Big Brother. Yu Shuang, who had turned into a giant, suddenly trembled slightly. She stretched out her foot and stomped down on Yu Yang. If this foot were to land, Yu Yang would probably be severely injured even if he didn't die. Raging Flame clenched her fists tightly. She was not a fool. As a bystander, she could tell that the illusion had regained control of the giant Yu Shuang and continued to attack him when Yu Yang's will had changed its target. Can you step a little harder? Illusions don't exist. Yu Yang laughed. When the big foot stomped down, his body was completely unharmed, and the huge illusion turned into nothingness. All the illusions disappeared, and a road leading into the distance appeared. However, Yu Yang did not walk up. Instead, he walked casually towards the sky, randomly walking backwards. Sometimes he would even deliberately take a few steps back. When the road disappeared and a black door reappeared, Yu Yang did not even look at it. Instead, He walked back towards Raging Flame's side. Strangely, another altar appeared in front of him after he took a dozen steps. On top of the altar stood Shui Wuxia and Princess Sisai. They waved at him. Raging Flame almost wanted to remind him loudly that it was another illusion. Don't be fooled, but she found that Yu Yang had run up and hugged them. The Night Empress's voice rang in the stunned Raging Flame's ears. In the gate of life and death, the distance from the gate of life to the gate of death can be infinitely far, or it can only be a single step. If you can comprehend this mystery like Yu Yang, when you can walk to the opposite altar like him, then you can truly surpass yourself. Taking a step is equivalent to surpassing yourself. You can slowly experience it. The gate of life is only the beginning of an expert. To be able to comprehend in the gate of death, that is true power. Yes, Raging Flame was now convinced. The martial artists of Tong Tian Tower were indeed not simple. On the surface, this Night Empress's level was inferior to hers. However, in a real battle, Raging Flame had a feeling that she might not be able to fight back and would be easily defeated by her opponent. Raging Flames looked at the eager drunken cat sister and took a deep breath. She closed her eyes and stretched out her foot to take a heavy step into the void outside. The clown reappeared. Raging Flame resisted the wrong feeling in her heart and desperately told herself that this was just an illusion. This was not real. However, the clown laughed sinisterly. He raised his long leg and kicked Raging Flame, screaming arrogantly, "Fool! So what if I betrayed you back then? I killed so many people back then. What can you do to me? Look at your cowardly appearance. You don't even dare to retaliate when I hit you. You're still calling yourself a chivalrous bandit who hates evil. You're simply the biggest trash in the Southern Heaven realm. Go to hell. Trash like you don't have the right to live." The clown kicked dozens of times in a row, forcing Raging Flame, who was struggling to stand firm, to retreat again and again. Finally, he retreated up the steps, and the clown disappeared. Raging Flame reached out and touched the footprint left by the clown's kick. She spat out a mouthful of blood and muttered to herself, "It really is an abnormal trial. However, I won't admit defeat." What made Raging Flame crazy was that drunken cat, who looked very weak in her eyes, was actually able to last for 3 minutes. She didn't vomit blood when she came back. She just panted slightly and felt a little tired. It was one thing for that brat Yu Yang to be too abnormal, but how did this woman, who was countless times weaker than her, do it? She couldn't even hold on for a minute, but she could actually last for 3 minutes? Raging Flame felt like she was about to faint. For the first time in her life, she put down the pride of the Heaven Stage expert and asked Drunken Cat, "Ah, can you tell me, how did you do it?" Chapter 703, Gate of Life and Death, Gate of Death's Altar. After hugging, Yu Yang realized that something was wrong. He felt that Princess Sisai and Shui Wuxia were very different. Originally, because they had been training with Ji Zun and Night Empress, although they had made great progress, they had only reached innate level 5. Now, not only had they climbed to innate level 6, there was also an indescribable qualitative change. Could it be that they had already comprehended their own domain? Yu Yang was surprised and happy. Using his Heaven Eye's divine vision, he realized that Princess Sisai, Tigress, was emitting a kind of holy power. Although this kind of holy power could not be compared to the Prison Emperor divine sword at the moment, but it was compatible with her guardian beast, White Tiger. They mutually strengthened each other, allowing Princess Sisai's strength to increase by leaps and bounds that made Yu Yang have a whole new level of respect for her. If the Princess Qian Qian in the past was just a tiger cub that had yet to grow its baby teeth, then the current her was a fierce tiger that had grown wings. Describing her progress as being like a tiger that had grown wings was the most appropriate. The holy power in her body was definitely the best power to assist her in battle. What was even more amazing was that this kind of holy power was actually a type of inability. It did not hinder Princess Sisai from unleashing her full potential. At the same time, it also had a strong complementary effect to the yang ability in Yu Yang's body. Yu Yang did not dare to imagine what kind of power he could unleash if he fought together with Princess Sisai. This was definitely not as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. Tigress, when did you comprehend the domain of life and death? Yu Yang asked in surprise. 3 days ago. Princess Sisai was a little proud. She raised her small fist and lightly pounded on Yu Yang's chest. We are not idiots. Previously, we had been suppressing our levels to train so that we could have a greater harvest in comprehending the domain of life and death. Otherwise, how could we have left you behind so much in terms of levels? Jizun had said that if one were to comprehend domain power in the gate of life and death, it would definitely yield twice the results with half the effort. Although the gate of life and death was hard to endure, cultivating here was much better than slowly comprehending in normal battles. Wu Xia and I had spent a lot of effort to pass through the gate of life and then enter the gate of death to comprehend our domain. Now, it's your turn to catch up to me. Ha! I've finally surpassed you in something. Congratulations, Tigress. You are indeed a good girl. Yu Yang flattered Princess Sisai and looked towards Shui Wuxia, who was pretending to be calm. She pretended to be calm, but the joy that flashed in her eyes exposed the pride in her heart. It could enhance one's strength and become a powerful aid to one's lover. Wu was the greatest hope in her heart. Now that she had gone through a lot of hardships and finally got what she wanted, it was impossible for her not to be happy. If she had obtained the same achievement as Shui Wuxia, if it was City Mistress Fallen Flowers, she would definitely throw herself into his arms and tell him everything in detail, telling him all the pain she had suffered in the process of training so that he would love her. Otherwise, she would have shared all of her gains with him and let him praise her achievements. If she didn't act coquettishly to her lover after achieving success, she wouldn't be his Fallen Flowers. On the surface, Princess Sisai liked to quarrel with him, but she couldn't suppress the pride in her heart and couldn't help but boast to him. When she punched him just now, it was a little bit like showing off her joy. However, Shui Wuxia wasn't Princess Sisai. She wasn't City Mistress Fallen Flowers either, or Impatience. She was the one and only Shui Wuxia. Even if she had thousands of feelings in her heart, on the surface, she would only smile slightly. They didn't need to talk too much. Just by looking at each other or smiling at each other, they understood each other's feelings. Other than her, there wasn't anyone else who could have such a tacit understanding with him. Although Yu Yang already knew that Shui Wuxia had also comprehended the power of the domain and was mentally prepared, with his Heaven Eyes divine vision, he realized that he couldn't see through her strength at a glance. He immediately shouted in shock, "What? What the hell happened? Did you refine the artifact? I've discovered an unimaginable power in you." Shui Wuxia's lips curved beautifully, and there was a happy smile in the depths of her eyes. Princess Sisai saw that she still hadn't announced the answer and was a little anxious for her. She reached out and patted Yu Yang's shoulder. "You have a good eye. Although the domain of holy power that I comprehended from the 4 symbols has already exceeded my expectations, it's still lacking compared to Wu Xia's domain of divine sense." Yu Yang's heartbeat sped up 100 times. Divine sense domain? Wu Xia is very hardworking. I also didn't expect that she would actually use the ancient book to fuse with the supreme divine sense left behind by a holy supreme rancor in the Gate of Death. Now, her book has become the Book of Truth, a semi-god artifact. Her guardian beast, Blizzard Lady, has also reached the level of a semi-god beast, Storm Goddess Envoy. In the future, she will advance into a divine beast. The Night Empress's heavenly voice sounded softly, and her words were filled with admiration. Wu Xia and Qian Qian's comprehension of the domain is not bad, and now Fallen Flowers is also working hard. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Yu Yang held Shui Wuxia's hand. He knew that in order to achieve such success, she must have paid an extremely arduous cultivation. Shui Wuxia smiled. She knew that he was only feeling sorry for her and not blaming her for not telling him in advance. She could feel his concern from the bottom of her heart. Sometimes, words were not needed for him and her because the two of them had a tacit understanding of each other. Shui Wuxia gently held Yu Yang's big hand with her small white jade hand. Looking at him, her lake-like eyes smiled at him. All the hardships in cultivation, in this moment of looking at each other, had all disappeared. What was left was the sweetness of two hearts close together, the happiness of sharing with one's lover. Princess Sisai was a little angry in her heart. She had also comprehended the holy domain that could be supported by the power of 4 elephants. Why didn't this brat hold her hand? He was always especially nice to Wuxia. She reached out and pulled his other hand. If he didn't pull her, it would be the same if she pulled him. Anyway, she couldn't let him escape from her hands. With the experience of success, everyone will catch up in the future. Let's not talk about the death gate for now. At least we have to pass the life gate trial. Night Empress first let Yu Yang, Shui Wuxia, and Princess Sisai enjoy the quiet and sweet moment. She went to pick up City Mistress Fallen Flowers, who had reached the limit of her endurance training in the death gate. City Mistress Fallen Flowers was drenched in sweat. When she saw Yu Yang, she jumped into his arms in surprise and kissed him excitedly, completely disregarding the fact that everyone was looking at them. "Why are you here?" City Mistress Fallen Flowers' joyful expression suddenly darkened. "I haven't been able to comprehend the domain of power yet. If only you had come a few days later." "It's okay. Maybe you have comprehended the domain of power, and I haven't succeeded yet." Yu Yang channeled a strand of innate chi into her and kissed her forehead lightly. "Go back to the grimoire world and rest for a while. Wu Hen is here too. Don't tire yourself out. Rushing for quick results is actually a hindrance to cultivation." "All right then, I'll be lazy today." City Mistress Fallen Flowers stuck out her pink tongue. Guided by Little One Li, she entered Yu Yang's grimoire world. After the girl's love was over, she officially began to cultivate. Night Empress explained the key points of the Death Gate to Yu Yang, while Shui Wuxia and Princess Sisai supplemented them with their own experiences. Their experiences might not be useful to Yu Yang, but at least Yu Yang wouldn't have to repeat their wrong cultivation path. This was also the main reason why warriors with good teachers and helpful friends were more likely to succeed in their cultivation than warriors who were alone. Their cultivation realms were raised faster and higher. Night Empress warned, "You have to pay special attention to one thing. Inside the Death Gate is the true law trial point left behind by the ancient experts. Inside, there is a special world. If we call the life gate outside the outer world, then it is the inner world. In the inner world of the Death Gate, everything about it is the complete opposite of the life gate. Everything is real. Real existence?" Yu Yang's heart skipped a beat when he heard this. It was as if he had some inspiration, but he couldn't capture it. "I don't know how many divine wills there are inside. Their remaining divine power will transform into flaws in their hearts, turning illusions into real existences. You have to use your will to deny these real things. As long as your will surpasses the divine will inside, you will be able to obtain their approval." Night Empress explained. "Is it a complete denial? Like the life gate?" After Yu Yang heard this, he pondered for a moment and then asked. "Absolutely not." Night Empress's answer was like this. "I will use my will to guard it, and only focus on the blessing." Princess Sisai's method was to take out the Prison Emperor Divine Sword and use her usual sword training state to guard it. On the contrary, my method is to directly fuse with the other party and turn them into my book. Just like reading a book, I will maintain the ethereal realm like usual or a higher ethereal realm. Shui Wuxia also said her own method. "I understand a little." Yu Yang nodded. Before he stepped into the Death Gate, he suddenly turned around and asked, "What kind of domain is Jizun?" "She is the person who has stayed in the Death Gate for the longest time. No one has ever been able to use the Death Gate to cultivate for a long time, but she can use it to cultivate in seclusion for a maximum of 1 month. Therefore, what she comprehended is the one and only Jizun domain in the world. That is a kind of supreme domain power." When Night Empress finished speaking, she scared Yu Yang so much that his jaw almost dropped to the ground. God, even the Prison Emperor could only stay in there for a day, but she could stay in there for a month? Although this had nothing to do with strength, It at least proved that her will was already able to resist the interference of the divine will left behind by the ancient rancors. Yu Yang looked at Shui Wuxia and Princess Sisai with an inquiring gaze. Of course, the two of them understood what he wanted to ask. Princess Sisai's answer was 1 hour. It was because she had passed the trial that she could comprehend the holy domain. Shui Wuxia's answer was 3 hours. She was even better than Princess Sisai. She had actually obtained the approval of the divine will and divine power left behind by an ancient rancor. She had fused with the ancient book and achieved the divine will domain. At the same time, she had also leveled up to become a semi-god equipment, the Book of Truth. I will work hard. Yu Yang didn't ask Night Empress. He knew that she would definitely be in there for more than 1 day, maybe 2 or 3 days. Otherwise, her starry sky domain wouldn't be this powerful. How long can he last when he enters the death door for the first time? Night Empress was also a little curious. The standard of ordinary people wouldn't work on Yu Yang. 5 minutes. Princess Sisai guessed. In her heart, she felt that it would actually be a little longer, but she deliberately said 5 minutes. More than 10 minutes. Shui Wuxia felt that Yu Yang would definitely be able to last for more than 10 minutes. Unexpectedly, Yu Yang ran back in less than a minute. The 3 girls fainted. They were extremely surprised. Without waiting for them to ask, Yu Yang hurriedly asked, "Is the Jizun sitting cross-legged in the death door real or fake?" Princess Sisai wiped the sweat on her forehead. "One is real, but there might be a few hundred more. You don't have to worry about Jizun. Just guard your thoughts." Yu Yang shook his head fiercely. "I'd better wait for a while before I cultivate. Jizun is inside. I'm nervous and can't concentrate." Before he finished speaking, Princess Sisai and Shui Wuxia fell to the ground, speechless. However, without waiting for Yu Yang to react, Jizun instantly flashed out. She grabbed his arm and casually threw it towards the death door. "Now it should be fine, right?" You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.